Chapter 2907, Show Off, 1. Feng Wu was dumbfounded. She had no idea how long Jun Linyuan would stay angry. Gong Shu Hongzhu and Chu Yun also left after that. Sheng Changtian and his team members followed suit. They didn't want to get caught because it would be so embarrassing. However, that their escape plan failed. Students of Imperial College stopped them at the gate. "You can't leave yet?" Chen Ziyun led the others and blocked the way. The people behind him still looked dazed because of the astonishing conversation they had just heard. "We lost the competition. What more do you want?" Sheng Changtian bellowed. He was so frustrated. Not only did his team lose the competition, his teammates were all badly wounded. Imperial College had won, and their players didn't have a scratch on them. "Nothing. We just want to show you to our principal's office. We need to talk about what happened today." Chen Ziyun chuckled. He knew Zhou Qingwan wouldn't get away. The Crown Prince was very angry now and would need to vent that anger somewhere. Sheng Changtian and his team didn't want to go to the principal's office, but the teachers and students of Imperial College didn't give them any choice. Students of the military academy didn't know what to think of Feng Wu. When the Crown Prince went up the stage, they wanted to accuse Feng Wu of stealing the spotlight. When Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu stood together, they thought Feng Wu was the evil woman who wanted to seduce the Crown Prince. However, when they saw their interactions on stage, those who had been in a relationship before immediately saw what was going on. Even those who had never had a boyfriend or girlfriend were impressed. Only a blind man wouldn't be able to see what was happening. Students of the military academy hated Feng Wu, but they knew the Crown Prince was in love with her, so they didn't dare offend her. However, they couldn't bring themselves to fawn on her either. How annoying! Out of sight, out of mind. The military academy students ran off as fast as they could. Chen Ziyun didn't try to stop them. He enjoyed seeing how defeated these people looked. It was a hilarious contrast to their arrogant demeanor last year. The Imperial College students considered Feng Wu the brightest star in the school. "She's from our school. She's an Imperial College student. I feel so proud to be in the same school as her. She was in Class E when she first came here, and that was only a few months before." They kept looking back at Feng Wu when they left because they didn't want to part from such beauty. Yi Han was in a daze. She had been defeated multiple times. However, she had only lost to Feng Wu in terms of cultivation achievements until now, which was why she could still fight back before. What she had just witnessed shattered all her hopes. She felt she didn't deserve to be Feng Wu's opponent. Everything she had done so far seemed so childish and ridiculous. Chapter 2908, Show Off, 2. If Shan Jingfei saw this. Better that she didn't. If she did, she would probably lose all hope, thought Yi Han. Chaoga was so happy as she led the other girls toward Feng Wu. "Let's go." She tugged at Yi Han's sleeve. Yi Han usually would be the first to criticize Feng Wu, but she had the highest respect for that girl now. She walked a few steps behind Duan Chaoga and watched Chaoga hug Feng Wu. Feeling so inferior, she didn't dare move closer. Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Why did Yi Han look so humble? "Yi Han, what's the matter?" Feng Wu asked. "Do you not feel well?" Yi Han was almost in tears. She was horrible to Feng Wu, but Feng Wu didn't hold any grudge against her. Feng Wu had such a superior status, but she still treated everybody like her equal. Yi Han decided Feng Wu, instead of Zhou Qingwan, was the one she should support. "Feng Wu, I'm on your side." Yi Han waved at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was confused. "What?" Yi Han said, "I'll place my bet on you and His Royal Highness. Please kick Zhou Qingwan's ass." Feng Wu's mouth fell open. Before she could say anything, Yi Han blushed and ran off, feeling so embarrassed for having expressed her admiration for her idol. Feng Wu said, "Hey, stop." But Yi Han had already run out of sight. Feng Wu was speechless. She tried to explain to the others, "There's nothing between Jun Linyuan and me. Please believe me." Chen Ziyun patted her on the shoulder. "Xiao Wu don't." You'll only sound like you're trying to cover something up. Sun Yu said, Xiao Wu will think you're making up stories. Chu Chu said, Xiao Wu, please go on. We don't mind your stories. Feng Wu was speechless. Although she was secretly pleased to be associated with Jun Linyuan, she would insist that she only had the tiniest bit of feeling for him. It was so complicated that she would rather throw some punches. She still had to take revenge. She didn't have time for puppy love. Her mission was to revive her beautiful master. Feng Wu said, I don't care what you say. I'm not going to admit it. Not everybody was happy after the competition. Imperial College won a generous award, and Military Academy almost lost everything. The Military Academy wanted to keep it a secret, but Imperial College wouldn't let that happen. Therefore, they started telling everybody about it. They even spread the news inside Military Academy and to people outside the campus. The news wouldn't have spread so fast if it was only a battle between the two schools. However, the Divine Phoenix blood was involved. What an exciting piece of news! Before long, all the major families heard about Feng Wu's Divine Phoenix blood. The Imperial Palace was no exception. Who were the main players in the empire? There were 9 families, 4 forces, and 2 schools. As soon as they learned the news, they were all blown away. Chapter 2909, Show Off 3. The 9 families were the families of Gongshu, Dugu, Zhou, Feng, Long, Hua, Gongsun, Xinyuan, and Tao. Feng Wu had dealt with most of them. Some were her friends, and some were her enemies. The 4 forces were Firmament Palace, the Sumaru Temple, the Shadowless Sect, and the Beggars Gang. They each had their own territory in the empire, but they all had a branch in the imperial capital. When the news spread in the capital city, it was soon delivered to the other corners of the empire, as if it had grown wings. The common folk were only amazed at the existence of the Divine Phoenix blood, and they went about their own business after that. That wasn't the case with the major families and forces. They were influential players for a reason. Most of their backgrounds went back thousands of years. Their favorite thing was to keep valuable information to themselves and only share it within their inner circles. The Divine Phoenix blood was one such example. The common folk were just amazed for a while, but the major forces knew something scarier. Back then, the ruler of the continent was the Honorable Master Mu. He had the Divine Phoenix blood. They had just found out that Feng Wu had the same bloodline. That meant Feng Wu would have an unbelievable future. Even if she didn't achieve great things, her offspring would be more than likely to have the bloodline. Holy crap! Who wouldn't want to marry such a girl? There was no question about that. No matter what kind of grudge a force might have held against Feng Wu before, their first reaction now was to send her a marriage proposal. Feng Wu had no idea of her impact on most of the influential forces in the empire. She also had no idea that people all over the empire were going to send her the most valuable gifts to win her heart. They didn't believe she was engaged to the crown prince, because if that were the case, the crown prince would have announced it already. Moreover, wasn't Zhu Qingwan the crown prince's fiancé? Either way, they would send Feng Wu proposal gifts first. No force wanted to be left behind. Feng Wu didn't know anything about that. Because of her great contribution, Imperial College gave her a week off so that she could go home and take a break. Gongsun Mu told Chen Ziyun after Feng Wu left, "If we don't let her go home, no one will be there to make His Royal Highness happy. When His Royal Highness isn't happy, he'll probably lash out at us." Hence, Feng Wu returned to Feng Manor. She was shocked before she even set foot inside. Since when did they get so many visitors? Nobody ever came to the Feng family. Why was there red silk draped over the front gate? Feng Wu saw Feng Yanfeng greeting the guests outside the front gate in a fake humble tone. "Xiao Wu isn't half as good as you say. Divine Phoenix blood? There's nothing special about that. It's only slightly better than true Phoenix blood." Feng Wu was speechless. What a familiar scene. When she was 5 and still a little genius, her uncle used to do this. He might sound modest, but nothing could hide the big smile on his face. Feng Wu shook her head. Instead of using the front gate, She returned to Fallen Star Yard by jumping over the wall. Chapter 29:10, Show Off 4. The White Fairy stared at Fairy in astonishment. She knew about Master Phoenix, and she knew Chu Tianxiao was Feng Wu's third senior brother and that Master Mu was Feng Wu's master. However, she never thought the girl would have divine phoenix blood. How could anyone be so lucky? Was she really the chosen one? The White Fairy gave Feng Wu an envious glance before walking away. Feng Wu said, "White Fairy." The White Fairy shouted without looking back, "I need a moment to calm down." That was how any ordinary person would react. Feng Wu shrugged. She knew the White Fairy was just having a grumpy moment and would soon go back to normal. The whole world seemed to have been agitated by her divine phoenix blood, and Fallen Star Yard was the only safe haven. Her beautiful mother was as innocent as ever. Chaoga still trusted her unconditionally. Uncle Chiu and Granny Zhao were still hard-working people, and Qiuling spared no effort in her cultivation. The Imperial Palace. What? Emperor Wu almost fell off his chair when he heard the news. Master Gao, the eunuch, nodded with a smile. "Your Majesty, the news is everywhere. They all know that Miss Feng Wu has the unique divine phoenix blood." Emperor Wu's eyes became frighteningly bright. He grabbed Master Gao's arms so hard that Master Gao thought his bones would crack. The emperor was no longer a young man, but he moved so fast. "What did you say? The divine phoenix blood? My precious daughter-in-law has that bloodline? Are you sure?" Emperor Wu's eyes sparkled. Master Gao suspected that if he said no, His Majesty would break his neck. There was a bright smile on Master Gao's face. "Your Majesty, of course I'm sure. The Crown Prince's future wife has the divine phoenix blood. Imagine how bright their children will be." Master Gao chuckled. Emperor Wu jumped to his feet. He put his hands behind his back and paced around in the spacious study. The divine phoenix blood. For real? My family is so blessed. Is it true? Can it be a lie? Thought the emperor. Summon the Crown Prince. Find people who watched the competition. I want people from both schools. Emperor Wu rubbed his hands and took a deep breath as he tried to calm his pounding heart. Ordinary people thought the divine phoenix blood was just a more impressive bloodline than the true phoenix blood. The influential forces knew Master Mu had that bloodline. Only the imperial family knew the secret of that bloodline. OMG! Emperor Wu was so excited. People from both schools arrived before the Crown Prince did. Emperor Wu talked to them in person. From their statements, Emperor Wu was almost certain that his daughter-in-law indeed had the divine phoenix blood. Chapter 29:11, Marry Her. Emperor Wu was so happy that he didn't think about what the people he summoned would think. Gong Sun Mu was obviously happy for Feng Wu, but the military academy wasn't so happy. Gong Shu Hongzhu felt uneasy. He said, "His Majesty seemed happy." Chu Yun said, "Happy? Try over the moon." Gong Shu Hongzhu said, "I offended Feng Wu before." Chu Yun said, "So did I." They looked at each other and wanted to cry. What have we done? Nobody cared about Zhuo Qingwan right now. After getting the evidence he wanted, Emperor Wu was more thrilled than when Jun Linyuan was born. Where is the Crown Prince? Why hasn't he arrived? Emperor Wu was tired of waiting. Master Gao arrived, panting. "Your Majesty." He had run as fast as he could. "Where's Jun Linyuan? Where's that brat?" Emperor Wu's face darkened. Master Gao said, "His Royal Highness said he's not coming." Emperor Wu's eyes widened. Does he want to get married or not? Master Gao said, "Well, I think I know the reason." He told the truth. His Royal Highness was displeased as soon as I mentioned Miss Feng Wu. According to Feng, His Royal Highness quarreled with Miss Feng Wu. Emperor Wu was exasperated. He pointed at Master Gao with a shaking finger. How can he quarrel with her now? Is he stupid? Do you know how urgent things are? Emperor Wu felt like he couldn't breathe. Master Gao patted him on the back to help him take deep breaths. Emperor Wu was so flustered. Does that brat know what the divine phoenix blood means? Has he realized that other forces will know too? Does he know how many people will want to marry her? How can he be in a bad mood? He doesn't have that right. Emperor Wu paced around in the study. Get him here. I don't care if you have to tie him up. I'm issuing an imperial edict. I'm going to make their engagement official. Although the engagement had always existed, it had been kept a secret. He was going to make it public now. Everybody would know it. Master Gao frowned. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness says if you announce the engagement, he'll break it off. What? Emperor Wu almost fainted. That brat used to nag him about marrying the girl into the imperial family. What was he doing now? Master Gao said, Your Majesty, you know the way His Royal Highness is. Maybe he has his own plan. Emperor Wu had to breathe deeply to curb the impulse to slap Jun Linyuan. That idiot. I promise you that all 9 families and 4 forces have sent out messengers, and they're headed for the capital as we speak. Master Gao said, Your Majesty, no one in the younger generation is as excellent as His Royal Highness. Emperor Wu said, What about the older generation? Chapter 29:12 Tease. Master Gao said, What? Emperor Wu said, Those families don't just have outstanding younger members. Some of the middle-aged members are equally impressive. What if Feng Wu prefers a mature man? What should we do? Master Gao said, What? Emperor Wu said, Forget it. You won't understand. He left the room, looking for someone that he could talk to. Who should I go to? Empress Dugu, then. She's the most considerate person. She used to have some disagreements with Feng Wu, but she's been saying many good things about that girl. She must like Feng Wu a lot now. So, Emperor Wu went to see Empress Dugu. Empress Dugu was quite happy recently, probably because Feng Wu hadn't been around to upset her. However, divine phoenix blood? Empress Dugu ground her teeth, feeling as sick as if she had swallowed a fly. Yes, the divine phoenix blood. Isn't it great? She's our daughter-in-law. Emperor Wu said proudly. Empress Dugu thought, Go away. I don't want that daughter-in-law. Seeing Empress Dugu's frozen smile, Emperor Wu frowned. Didn't you say you've reconciled with Xiao Wu? You said you did something you weren't proud of too. I thought you liked that girl. Empress Dugu didn't know what to say. Like that girl? When Feng Wu joined Imperial College, Empress Dugu thought she wouldn't be back for a few years. That was why Empress Dugu played the good wife and said those things. But now, she could only scream in her head. When talking to her husband, she had to fake a smile and pretend to be the good wife that she was supposed to be. That's great news. What a lovely girl. Empress Dugu's smile looked more like a grimace. Emperor Wu should have noticed it, but he was too absorbed in having such an amazing daughter-in-law that he failed to discern the Empress's emotions. He feigned a modest tone. Don't say that. Our Xiao Wu is only slightly better than your niece. Empress Dugu wanted to roll her eyes. If you weren't smiling so broadly, I would actually believe you. Although she knew Emperor Wu was showing off to her and complimenting Feng Wu by belittling Zhuo Qingluan, she still had to agree with everything he said. Empress Dugu felt as if she was being slapped repeatedly. She decided she would never forgive Feng Wu. Was Emperor Wu going to stop when he saw Empress Dugu's expression? No. Emperor Wu wasn't a considerate person. He smiled at Empress Dugu. My mother has been in poor health recently. Come with me. Let's tell her the good news. Maybe she'll feel much better. Empress Dugu was almost in tears and gave Emperor Wu a pleading look. Emperor Wu found it suspicious. You don't look happy. Do you still have objections about Feng Wu? Chapter 29:13 Precious Teenage Girl. Emperor Wu found it suspicious. You don't look happy. Do you still have objections about Feng Wu? No. Of course Empress Dugu couldn't admit her jealousy. That would mean she had been telling lies until now. The emperor could allow mistakes, but he wouldn't tolerate lies. She put on the most professional smile. Your Majesty, I'll come with you. The Empress Dowager resided in Sinane Palace. She hadn't been feeling well these days and had been spending most of her time in bed. Granny Lan asked gently, "Your Majesty, shall we summon Miss Feng Wu to have a look?" The Empress Dowager darted a stern look at her. Granny Lan was on Feng Wu's team, but she wasn't the Empress Dowager's only maid. Granny Zhu moved closer and said, "Firmament Palace has great doctors, and Miss Suqingwan is their sacred lady. I'm sure she's wonderful." The Empress Dowager didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Of course, she knew what Suqingwan could do. She used to like the girl, but the girl seemed to have her secret agenda, so the old lady didn't like her that much anymore. Seeing that the Empress Dowager didn't say no, Granny Zhu moved closer and whispered, "Not only is Miss Suqingwan a great doctor, she's also very pretty. Most importantly, she's the only one with true phoenix blood in our empire." Granny Lan frowned. With the true phoenix blood, she's indeed more efficient in her cultivation, but the Empress Dowager favored Granny Zhu recently, so Granny Zhu glanced at Granny Lan and went on, "Your Majesty, you've been lying in bed all the time. I don't think there's anything wrong with your health. I think you just have nothing to do." The Empress Dowager's face darkened. What was she supposed to be doing then? Granny Zhu said, "Your Majesty, if His Royal Highness gets married and has a baby, you can watch the baby running around in the palace. Sinang Palace will be so much more lively." The Empress Dowager was persuaded. That was so true. Baby June had been the most amazing boy. He was so handsome and so smart that the most arrogant elders had to recognize his capability. If he had a baby, the Empress Dowager said, "Only the most beautiful and precious girl can have baby June's child." Granny Zhu smiled. "Of course, Your Majesty, His Royal Highness already has an excellent bloodline. If the mother also has an outstanding one, it'll be a perfect match." The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. Granny Lan lowered her head and smiled wryly. Everything Granny Zhu said was to bring up Suqingwan and her true phoenix blood. Granny Lan felt sorry for Feng Wu. She would be perfect if she hadn't lost her true phoenix blood. What a pity. Granny Zhu took the Empress Dowager's hand. "Your Majesty, which girl in the Junwo Empire do you think has the most precious bloodline?" Chapter 29:14. Find Baby June a divine phoenix blood wife. The girl with the most precious bloodline. The first name that popped into the Empress Dowager's head was Feng Wu. Deep down, she was convinced by Feng Wu's medical skills, but she didn't want to admit it. Moreover, she didn't like Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan being close to each other, which was why she was hostile toward the girl. The second name was Suqingwan. The Empress Dowager frowned. "Are you referring to Zhua?" "Yes, Your Majesty. It's Miss Suqingwan. She has the true phoenix blood, which makes her the girl with the most precious bloodline. The Zhua family must have paid Granny Zhu generously. She sang Suqingwan's praises whenever she could, trying to make Suqingwan the perfect candidate." "Suqingwan, is it?" The Empress Dowager knew Suqingwan had the true phoenix blood. She also knew how rare and outstanding that bloodline was, but she still felt something was missing. "Your Majesty, do you not like her?" Granny Zhu asked tentatively. The Empress Dowager frowned and spoke her mind. "There's nothing wrong with Suqingwan, but I just feel." She pictured Suqingwan standing by Jun Lingyuan's side, and something didn't feel right. Something's still lacking. She shook her head. Granny Zhu panicked a little. "What's lacking?" The Empress Dowager shook her head. "I don't know, but Suqingwan isn't good enough for baby June." Granny Zhu smiled wryly. "Your Majesty, His Royal Highness is unique. Yes, the true phoenix blood isn't good enough. Only the divine phoenix blood is." The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. "Divine phoenix blood? Are you saying a girl has that bloodline? Where is she?" Granny Zhu said, "Your Majesty." The Empress Dowager no longer felt sick. She said, "I know why I don't like Suqingwan. I know what the problem is." "What problem?" Granny Zhu and Granny Lan looked at the Empress Dowager. Meanwhile they heard footsteps outside. "His Majesty the Emperor and Her Majesty the Empress are here." The Empress Dowager looked up to see Emperor Wu, who was followed by the reluctant Empress Dugu. She immediately got out of bed. As soon as Granny Zhu and Granny Lan helped her into her shoes, she ran toward Emperor Wu. "You're here." The Empress Dowager looked thrilled. "I finally figured it out." The Empress Dowager held Emperor Wu's hands in excitement. "I know what kind of girl Junjun should marry." She was so agitated that she was almost incoherent. "Zhou Qingwan won't do it. She's not good enough for baby June. Listen to me. We must find baby June, a girl with the divine phoenix blood." The Empress Dowager clutched Emperor Wu's hands. "Do you hear me? She has to have the divine phoenix blood. Only the divine phoenix blood is good enough for baby June. Anything else would be an insult. Do you hear me? Answer me." The Empress Dowager was perplexed when she saw the strange look in her son's eyes. Chapter 29:15. It's Feng Wu. The Empress Dowager was perplexed when she saw the strange look in her son's eyes. Emperor Wu felt conflicted. The Empress Dowager had been doing everything in her power to sabotage the marriage. If she knew what she was doing, Emperor Wu wanted to laugh. He wanted to tease the old lady. He knew the answer, but he wouldn't tell her. Instead, he said, "Mother, the divine phoenix blood is so hard to come by." The Empress Dowager glared at him and snorted. "I've made up my mind. Only the divine phoenix blood is good enough for Junjun." Emperor Wu said, "Well, we do have true phoenix blood." The Empress Dowager said, "No, that's not good enough." She glared at Emperor Wu. "Why won't you give me a straight answer? Have you forgotten that Junjun is your son? He has to marry a girl with the divine phoenix blood. There's no other option." Behind Emperor Wu, Empress Dugu looked upward, trying to ignore the conversation. She wished she couldn't hear anything. Emperor Wu fought back his urge to laugh. He held his mother's hands and led her toward the bed. "Mother, if that's your request, there's only one candidate." "There is one." The Empress Dowager stared at Emperor Wu in disbelief. Emperor Wu said, "Yes." The Empress Dowager asked, "Where is she? Which family is she from? Why are you still here? Send her a marriage proposal." Emperor Wu cleared his throat. The Empress Dowager frowned. "Answer my question. How old is she? Is she too young?" Emperor Wu stopped his mother before she let her imagination run wild. "She's here in the Junwu Empire, and she's 14, Emperor Wu announced. "Nonsense." The Empress Dowager threw off Emperor Wu's hands and sat down on the bed. "Stop teasing me." Emperor Wu chuckled. "Don't you believe me?" The Empress Dowager said, "No." Emperor Wu said, "I'll let the Empress tell you who the girl is." Empress Dugu wished she was somewhere else. Emperor Wu glanced at Empress Dugu. "Tell my mother who the girl is." Empress Dugu felt so frustrated. The Empress Dowager said, "I don't want her niece. Not in a million years." Empress Dugu felt even more frustrated. Emperor Wu smiled proudly. "Dugu, tell my mother who has the most precious bloodline." It was like asking Empress Dugu to slap herself. She decided to get it over with. She took a deep breath and said that name. Feng Wu. She was so loud that it almost made the Empress Dowager jump. Huh. She didn't catch the name. "What Wu?" Emperor Wu laughed. "Mother, she said Feng Wu." Chapter 29:16. How dare they? It was Feng Wu. Emperor Wu couldn't feel any happier when he said those words. He successfully shocked his mother. She turned around and stared at Emperor Wu. It took her a while to find her voice. "What did you say?" Emperor Wu laughed. "Mother, didn't you say you want Junjun to marry a girl with the most precious bloodline? You don't need to search anymore. She's right over there at Feng Manor." The Empress Dowager rolled her eyes at Emperor Wu. "I don't believe you." Emperor Wu said, "You don't have a choice now. Feng Wu has the divine phoenix blood, which is what you were asking for." The Empress Dowager wouldn't believe it. She asked for the divine phoenix blood, and her son immediately found it for her. "I'll never believe it." The Empress Dowager snorted. Emperor Wu said, "Mother, it doesn't matter. Everybody else believes it because it's the truth." The Empress Dowager glared at him. She didn't believe it at first, but both the Emperor and the Empress had said so, and the Empress Dowager felt uneasy. She told Granny Zhu and Granny Lan, "Ask around and see what this is about." They were her oldest maids, so she trusted them. She was holding on to her last bit of hope. It was such a struggle. She couldn't imagine that Feng Wu could have the divine phoenix blood. If that was true, she would be utterly humiliated. She turned the prayer beads in her hands and said a silent prayer. Empress Dugu gave her a pitying look. She wished the Empress Dowager would stop being in denial and end this nonsense. She was going to explode. Granny Zhu and Granny Lan soon came back. Granny Zhu looked very pale and seemed to have lost all hope. Granny Lan, on the other hand, was in high spirits. The Empress Dowager asked Granny Zhu first, "What have you learned? Tell me." Granny Zhu said, "Well." The Empress Dowager had a bad feeling and turned to Granny Lan. Granny Lan nodded at her. She couldn't be any clearer. Boom! The Empress Dowager felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her mind went blank. She pointed at Emperor Wu. "Is Feng Wu really?" Emperor Wu nodded solemnly. "Yes, mother. Feng Wu has the divine phoenix blood. No one's bloodline is as precious as hers." It was such a blow to the old lady. The girl had the most precious bloodline. The Empress Dowager's lips trembled. "I need some time to think. Leave me alone now." Emperor Wu paused after taking a few steps. "Mother, I received news that most of the 9 families and 4 forces are interested in the divine phoenix blood. They're all coming to the imperial capital with their marriage proposal gifts. You won't have much time to think." The Empress Dowager shouted, "How dare they?" Chapter 29:17, The Crown Prince. The Zhou family. Everything was fine at first when Zhou Qingwan returned home. However, when news of Feng Wu's divine phoenix blood spread, she sensed the change in people's attitudes. From her parents and uncles to the older generations and the servants, everybody was giving her looks which reminded her of how things had been like 5 years ago. "Why is Feng Wu better than you in everything? You both have the true phoenix blood. Why aren't you as good as she is? Why can she learn everything in an instant? Why are you so stupid? Why?" The memory nearly gave Zhou Qingwan a nervous breakdown. She couldn't stand those words 5 years ago, and now that she had risen so high, she tolerated them even less. It was worse than being cut repeatedly with a blunt knife. The first person she went to see was her grandfather, and she would never forget the look he gave her. He couldn't have seemed more disappointed. "Leave. I don't want to see you again." Did he give up on her because she didn't have the divine phoenix blood? She couldn't accept it. "Feng Wu, I hate you." Zhou Qingwan smashed everything in her place, but that still wasn't enough. She wanted to tear down all the walls. She couldn't be bothered to set up a barrier this time, so everybody could hear the noise of her kicking and throwing things around. Many servants were so scared that they stopped what they were doing and looked at Zhou Qingwan's courtyard. Right now, Zhou Qingwan was lashing out at the jade pendant. She believed Shadow Phoenix was responsible for her defeat. "How could you do that to me? Are you my Shadow Phoenix or not? How could you betray me at the last minute? She doesn't even have the true phoenix blood. Her divine phoenix blood must be fake. You bastard! You betrayed me!" Zhou Qingwan smashed the pendant on the ground. The pendant cracked, and the Shadow Phoenix emerged. It glared at Zhou Qingwan and wanted to swallow her whole. Its eyes were bloodshot red. There were flames in its eyes. Zhou Qingwan was intimidated. It seemed she had offended the bird. Shadow Phoenix didn't show Zhou Qingwan any respect. "What did you say? Her blood is better than yours, and it's somehow my fault?" Zhou Qingwan didn't know what to say. Shadow Phoenix said, "I've put up with you for so long. Everybody thinks you're this perfect girl, but you're horrible when the door is closed. You're so fake." Zhou Qingwan was dumbfounded. She didn't know Shadow Phoenix could be so mean. Shadow Phoenix went on. I can't stand your worthless blood anymore. Don't bother me again. I don't want your true phoenix blood. Zhuo Qinghuan was furious. She was so proud of her true phoenix blood, but Shadow Phoenix made it sound like it was nothing. Just then she heard some noise outside. His Royal Highness is here. OMG! Why is His Royal Highness here? Is the rumor true? Is he really in love with Miss Qinghuan? Chapter 29:18 Threat. Zhuo Qinghuan's fans all believed the rumor that Jun Linyuan was madly in love with her. The rumor came from Zhuo Qinghuan herself. She had been furious when she heard, Jun Linyuan the sovereign descends to the world, and Feng Wu the phoenix soars above the land. She waited and waited, but nobody wrote similar things for her, so she had to come up with something on her own. Qinghuan's heart belongs to Jun Linyuan. That was what the fans said. Of course, only Zhuo Qinghuan and Tong Ke, her chambermaid, knew where that had come from. Hearing Jun Linyuan's name, Shadow Phoenix immediately ran back to the pendant and hid inside. You can't see me. You can't see me. His Royal Highness. Zhuo Qinghuan was intrigued. Is he here to comfort me after seeing what Feng Wu did to me? Zhuo Qinghuan was exasperated when she saw the mess she had made. Jun Linyuan arrived before she could clean up. He stood in front of Zhuo Qinghuan like a heavenly god. He was tall, handsome, and irresistibly charming. However, his eyes were cold. The temperature around him seemed to drop. The energy emanating from him was terrifying. He was invincible. Anybody would see him as a god. Zhuo Qinghuan couldn't keep her eyes off him. He was the man of her dreams. She would sell her soul to the devil to have him. That was how much she loved him. The next second, Jun Linyuan's sword was at her throat. The tip of the blade was millimeters away from her skin. The blade was so sharp that it cut her loose hair when the wind blew. Zhuo Qinghuan was dumbfounded. She had never imagined meeting Jun Linyuan like this. She was madly in love with him. How could he treat her like this? Your Royal Highness. Zhuo Qinghuan's parents arrived at that moment and were shocked to see what was going on. It took away what little hope they had. They had hoped that the Zhuo family would rise again because of the Crown Prince's love for Zhuo Qinghuan. However, the Crown Prince was so angry that he wanted to kill their daughter. Your Royal Highness, what's going on? What did I do? Zhuo Qinghuan's voice shook. She had always been an elegant and unapproachable girl, but she was a mess now. She cried so hard that the front of her dress was wet. Something was falling apart inside her. It was too painful to breathe. Your Royal Highness, why are you doing this? Why are you pointing your sword at me? Zhuo Qinghuan was confused. Did I do something wrong? Jun Linyuan frowned. A woman's tears would only work on the man who cared for her. He couldn't care less if Zhuo Qinghuan cried her eyes out that he cut to the chase. You wanted to kill her. Who was he referring to? Zhuo Qinghuan's parents might not know the answer, but she did. The Crown Prince was talking about Feng Wu, the girl she hated the most. Zhuo Qinghuan finally realized something. Chapter 29:19. He doesn't kill women. Shadow Phoenix cringed when it heard the conversation and buried its head deeper into its wings. It prayed that the scary Crown Prince didn't know what it had done. Zhuo Qinghuan looked into Jun Linyuan's eyes and wept. She was heartbroken. Do you want to kill me because of her? How could you? She looked like she was going to fall apart. Jun Linyuan found her reaction idiotic. Her tone only made him angrier. Zhuo Qinghuan's father was very anxious. Although his daughter didn't have the divine phoenix blood, her true phoenix blood could still be useful. He said, Your Royal Highness, if you want to kill someone, you can kill me. Qinghuan is just a child. Please don't let this incident damage your love. Their love? The Crown Prince's face darkened. He hadn't said anything, but it didn't mean these people could treat him like an idiot. How dare you harm my woman? Do you think I'm blind? What a statement. Feng Sun and Xian Yi were sitting on the wall. Hearing this, they smiled in satisfaction and clapped their hands. Finally, They had been waiting for this moment for so long. It was a pity that Feng Wu wasn't here, but this was good enough. While they were thrilled, it was the worst news this was had heard in their life. Those words meant that Jun Linyuan had nothing to do with Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingwan's parents immediately looked at her. Wait. Didn't Zhuo Qingwan say the crown prince was so in love with her that he wouldn't marry anybody else? What the crown prince just said was completely different. What was going on? Zhuo Qingwan couldn't care how anybody else looked at her now. Filled with sorrow, she asked Jun Linyuan, "How can you do this to me? Jun Linyuan, you've betrayed me." Blue veins popped on the crown prince's forehead. He wanted to kill Zhuo Qingwan right now, but he never killed women. How annoying. Zhuo Qingwan had been misleading the public for so long that even Feng Wu had misunderstood their relationship. Therefore, the crown prince decided to solve the problem once and for all. He grew impatient. Of course, he wasn't going to explain it to Zhuo Qingwan. He glanced at Feng Sun, who immediately took the hint. Feng Sun froze a little. It turned out that he wouldn't be allowed to just sit on the fence and watch. Jun Linyuan had a habit of challenging people in the middle of the night. After so many years, Feng Sun learned to react quickly. He jumped off the wall, stood next to Jun Linyuan, and stared at Zhuo Qingwan. If Feng Wu hadn't been born, Zhuo Qingwan would have been an excellent choice. However, she was nothing in comparison to his sister. Feng Sun glanced at Zhuo Qingwan. Qingwan's heart belongs to the crown prince, is it? The sacred lady of Firmament Palace is a very good writer. Zhuo Qingwan's face darkened. Chapter 29-20, The Truth. She stared at Feng Sun. I don't know what you're talking about. It's late. Please leave. I need to rest. You'll have all the time to sleep when you die. Miss Zhuo, would you like to rest now or forever? Feng Sun asked casually. He was doing it for her sister. You. Zhuo Qingwan glared at Feng Sun. What do you mean? Are you going to kill me? Feng Sun crossed his arms. Zhuo Qingwan, I just don't understand. Aren't you ashamed of all the rumors you've been spreading? Rumors? Zhuo Qingwan's parents looked at each other, and both had a bad feeling. Zhuo Qingwan's face turned red, but Feng Sun wasn't going to waste this opportunity. He pressed on. You spread the rumor about being in a relationship with Boss Jun. You said he was madly in love with you. You said he would marry you and no one else. You lied about having Boss Jun at your birthday party. You lied about being Boss Jun's fiancé. Feng Sun wasn't just saying those things off the top of his head. He had taken out a large piece of paper and was reading the contents from top to bottom. Zhuo Qingwan felt dizzy. She yelled at the top of her lungs, "Those aren't rumors. It's the truth." Her parents were falling apart. Those were all rumors. Zhuo Qingwan had been lying to them all along. Zhuo Qingwan glared at Feng Sun. She hated this man. Where did you get that? Even Zhuo Qingwan couldn't remember all the things she had done. Feng Sun clapped his hands, and a person walked out of the shadows. It was Tong Kei, Zhuo Qingwan's chambermaid. She was the only maid Zhuo Qingwan trusted. Zhuo Qingwan stared at Tong Kei in disbelief. You betrayed me. Tong Kei bowed to Zhuo Qingwan and said calmly, Zhuo Qingwan, there's something you should understand. I wasn't supposed to be your maid. I was a student at Firmament Palace, just like you. I helped you once out of kindness, but you found me useful and forced me to become your maid. Zhuo Qingwan glared at Tong Kei. That was for your own good. Tong Kei laughed. My own good? Should I thank you for spending my life serving you? Zhuo Qingwan didn't know what to say. She ground her teeth and said, So, you hate me. Is that why you betrayed me? Tong Kei shook her head. Young Lord Feng pays me better. That's all. Zhuo Qingwan was so angry that she couldn't speak a word. She suddenly thought about Feng Wu and her friends. Would Qiuling or Chaoga betray Feng Wu in a situation like this? No, they wouldn't. Zhuo Qingwan thought she was going to faint. She ground her teeth and kept saying, Jun Linyuan said he would marry me. He said those words. Feng Sun stared at her. Don't pass out just yet. Answer my question first. Feng Sun asked curiously, can you tell me why you have this idea that Boss Jun likes you and will marry you? Zhuo Qinghuan said, he said so himself. The crown prince wanted to kill this woman and stop her ranting. However, Feng Sun was more patient. He felt he was getting closer to the truth. Chapter 29-21, Stubborn Zhuo Qinghuan. Feng Sun said, you keep saying Boss Jun will marry you. Why don't any of us know that? Zhuo Qinghuan snorted and looked away. Her parents were almost in tears. They pleaded, young Lord Feng, please stop asking her. She's so upset. Would Zhuo Qinghuan talk her way out of it again? Feng Sun said, no, I won't stop. She's spreading rumors about Boss Jun all the time, and that has affected Boss Jun's reputation. I'm not going to stop just because you asked. You think too highly of yourself. After scolding Mr. and Mrs. Zhuo, Feng Sun turned back to Zhuo Qinghuan. Boss Jun could have married Feng Wu a long time ago, but because of you, she still won't believe his feelings for her. Zhuo Qinghuan, it's all your fault. What? Feng Wu? Zhuo Qinghuan's parents were astonished. Zhuo Qinghuan glared at Jun Linyuan. Did Feng Wu steal you away from me? Jun Linyuan lost his temper. He didn't like so many words. He wanted to kill someone. Seeing Jun Linyuan clench his fists, Feng Sun and Xian Yi immediately stopped him. Boss Jun, please don't get mad. The most important thing is to get an answer. After that, he could kill whomever he wanted. After calming Jun Linyuan down, Feng Sun turned to Zhuo Qinghuan. What makes you think Boss Jun is yours? He said he would marry me. Zhuo Qinghuan insisted. Feng Sun asked, when and where did he say that? Who else heard him? Zhuo Qinghuan said, he said those words, and that's the truth. He gave me a token too. A token? Feng Sun glanced at Jun Linyuan, but Jun Linyuan was utterly confused. He couldn't remember any tokens. Bullshit. Feng Sun stared at Zhuo Qinghuan. If you don't tell me today, no one can protect you. Zhuo Qinghuan smirked. What? Are you going to kill everybody? She was confident that they wouldn't do that. The Zhuo family was one of the 9 major families. Right now, the head of the family was cultivating in one of the courtyards at the back. He was also Zhuo Qinghuan's grandfather, and Zhuo Qinghuan didn't think he would let Jun Linyuan kill her. Feng Sun lost his temper, too. Are you going to tell me or not? Zhuo Qinghuan said, I'm the crown prince's woman, dead or alive. Jun Linyuan said, die, then. He wouldn't show her any mercy. Your Royal Highness. Mr. Zhuo was scared out of his wits when he saw Jun Linyuan raise his sword. Until today, he had considered himself the crown prince's future father-in-law. He thought Jun Linyuan was madly in love with his daughter. What Jun Linyuan was doing now suggested otherwise. Mr. and Mrs. Zhuo finally saw the truth. Jun Linyuan didn't like Zhuo Qinghuan at all. He never had. The whole thing was a rumor, which had probably come from Zhuo Qinghuan herself. Chapter 29-22, Old Mr. The blow was so hard that Zhuo Qinghuan's parents seemed to age 20 years in a matter of minutes. Boss Jun, Boss Jun. Feng Sun and Xian Yi stopped the furious Jun Linyuan. Calm down. If someone has to kill her, it has to be Xiao Wu. She'll be angry if you do it for her. Feng Sun knew only Feng Wu's name would work. He was right. Jun Linyuan only calmed down when Feng Wu was mentioned. Zhuo Qinghuan's parents lost all hope. What did they hear? Feng Wu. Was the crown prince really in love with Feng Wu? They looked from Zhuo Qinghuan to Jun Linyuan and Mrs. Zhuo fainted, unable to take the blow. Mr. Zhuo felt like fainting too. First of all, nothing was going on between the crown prince and Zhuo Qinghuan. Second, the crown prince was in love with Feng Wu. Feng Sun stared at Zhuo Qinghuan. Are you sure you won't tell me? Zhuo Qinghuan proudly held her ground and wouldn't say a word. She believed these people couldn't do anything to her. She wouldn't tell them what they wanted. Where did she get that confidence? Feng Sun suddenly got it. Do you think your grandfather will help you? Zhuo Qingwan, wake up. Your family is giving up on you. Zhuo Qingwan glanced at Feng Sun in disdain. Her parents might abandon her, but her grandfather would never do that, nor would the other senior members of the family. She had the true phoenix blood. She was a valuable asset. Although the old man had told her not to show her face again, she decided it was only an angry outburst. She was sure her grandfather didn't mean it. Your grandfather, is it? The crown prince looked around and nodded. You're right. You wouldn't have made so much trouble for me without his support. That reminds me of something. The Zhuo family has been abusing their power in the imperial capital because you think he will always save the day for you. Could Jun Linyuan headed in another direction. Boss Jun, where are you going? Feng Sun realized something wasn't right. Jun Linyuan said, I'm going to kill someone. Feng Sun said, holy shit. That didn't bode well, so Feng Sun and Xian Yi ran after Jun Linyuan. Mr. Zhuo and his wife, who had just woken up, were terrified. Jun Linyuan was heading for one of the courtyards at the back of the manor, where old Mr. Zhuo lived. Zhuo Qingwan also felt uneasy. Let's go. Mr. Zhuo's voice was trembling. Is His Royal Highness going to fight my father? Move faster. It only took Jun Linyuan an instant to get there. He landed in the courtyard and pointed his sword at the old man. Old Mr. Zhuo was making tea. With his capability, he could hear everything going on in the other courtyards. However, he still sat here and sipped his tea, which showed how confident he was. Your Royal Highness, it's been a while. He ignored Jun Linyuan's sword. It was as if the crown prince was an unreasonable child. Jun Linyuan's eyes glinted coldly. Old Mr. Zhuo was a great cultivator. He had made a name for himself before Jun Linyuan was born. After so many years, no one knew what his cultivation level was now. Chapter 29-23. For her. Sit. The old man gestured at a chair. The others arrived at that moment. Mr. Zhuo was relieved to see this seemingly peaceful scene. He thought his father would solve the problem. He threw a dirty look at Zhuo Qingwan, utterly disappointed by his daughter. Jun Linyuan didn't sit down, and his sky destroyer was still pointed at the old man. Zhuo Qingfeng, bring it on. The old man had an air about him, but that didn't affect the crown prince. Jun Linyuan had come here because he knew killing Zhuo Qingwan wouldn't be enough. Everybody knew Feng Wu had the divine phoenix blood now, and they all had their own plans. If they couldn't have her, they would try to destroy her. Jun Linyuan knew all the dirty tricks those forces would use. Therefore, he came to seize Zhuo Qingfeng, the head of the Zhuo family. He would punish the old man as a warning to others. Jun Linyuan hid his emotions so well that apart from Feng, no one knew what he wanted. To Zhuo Qingfeng, it was only a petty conflict over a girl. He only cared about the big picture, and this incident was nothing. However, Jun Linyuan considered Feng Wu to be more important than his own life. Zhuo Qingfeng said casually, Your Royal Highness, there's no need to get angry. Jun Linyuan smirked. Zhuo Qingfeng, I'm challenging you. When he made that challenge official, the incident was no longer a laughing matter. It was serious. Zhuo Qingfeng's hands trembled a little and he nearly spilled his tea. He looked at Jun Linyuan in bewilderment. Are you serious? Jun Linyuan said, Yes. Zhuo Qingfeng asked, Why? Jun Linyuan said, To set a precedent. The old man was furious. However, he was as shrewd as he was capable, so he soon saw what Jun Linyuan meant. He seemed to understand why Jun Linyuan was so persistent. Zhuo Qingfeng frowned. Is it because of her? Jun Linyuan said, Yes. He could confess his feelings for Feng Wu in front of other people, but when he was with Feng Wu, he was still a shy boy. Zhuo Qingfeng put down his teacup. He couldn't understand it. Jun Linyuan, cultivators come by generations. You are the young generation, but you're capable enough to be ranked among the middle-aged and old generations. Mr. Zhuo, Emperor Wu, and Feng Yanfeng belong to the middle-aged generation, but Jun Linyuan had long surpassed them. Zhuo Chengfeng asked sincerely, "There are only a handful of cultivators in the Junwo Empire that are as capable as us. I don't understand. Is it worth it to have this public fallout over a girl?" Jun Linyuan said affirmatively, "I can destroy the world for her." Unfortunately, Jun Linyuan had never said those words to Feng Wu. Feng Sun and the others were outside the transparent barrier. They could see what Jun Linyuan and the old man were doing, but they couldn't hear anything the two people inside said. What a pity. No one else would know what Jun Linyuan had just said. Chapter 29-24. Threaten everybody. Zhuo Qingfeng didn't expect to get such an answer from Jun Linyuan. He was dazed for a long while. He only believed in the big picture and cared about nothing except the benefit of the family as a whole. Personal emotions would never get in the way. He looked at Jun Linyuan and said in a sorry tone, "Your Royal Highness, are you saying you'll use me as an example to threaten everybody who wants to get their hands on the divine phoenix blood?" Jun Linyuan didn't deny it. Zhuo Qingfeng smiled bitterly. "I always thought your Royal Highness would marry Qingwan, and we would be family." Jun Linyuan couldn't be bothered to listen to his bullshit. Zhuo Qingfeng said, "I didn't think your Royal Highness would go so far for a girl. I'm amazed." Jun Linyuan's sword moved a little. Although neither of them had taken a step, the space between them was filled with fierce energy. The battle was too advanced for ordinary people to comprehend. Zhuo Qingwan had been watching Jun Linyuan and her grandfather from afar, but she didn't know what they were talking about. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. An idea struck her. She finally knew what her grandfather meant. After she suffered the defeat, she had run back home distraught, and the first person she went to see was her grandfather, who had looked at her in disappointment. He said, "Zhuo Qingwan, don't come here again." Before that, he said, "Zhuo Qingwan, why are you so shaken by the divine phoenix blood? How long do you think she can have it?" Zhuo Qingwan had been too distraught to realize what that meant, but she figured it out now. Her grandfather wasn't disappointed because her true phoenix blood was inferior to Feng Wu's bloodline. He was disappointed by her state. She shouldn't have lost faith or lost control of her emotions. So what if Feng Wu had the divine phoenix blood? If they could destroy her true phoenix blood 5 years ago, they could do it again 5 years later. Maybe they could find a way to plant the divine phoenix blood in her body. The idea excited Zhuo Qingwan. All those snobbish people chose Feng Wu because she has the divine phoenix blood. What if I have it instead? Zhuo Qingwan's heart pounded. The crown prince hadn't shown much interest in Feng Wu until she revealed her divine phoenix blood. That was to say, the crown prince liked Feng Wu's bloodline instead of her. If I have the divine phoenix blood. The idea made her blood boil. Meanwhile, the two people in the courtyard were nowhere to be seen. Where are they? Where did they go? Zhuo Qingwan woke up from her daydream to find the courtyard empty. The barrier was stopping them from entering. Her father said in a shaky voice, "They're in the sky." They couldn't keep their battle on the ground. Instead, the battle took place in the air. Is grandfather fighting His Royal Highness? That's not fair. His Royal Highness is so young. How can this be a fair match? Zhuo Qingwan was completely infatuated with Jun Linyuan. After finding an excuse that Jun Linyuan was only interested in the divine phoenix blood, she became obsessed with him even more. Chapter 29-25. Amazing Teenager. Her father gave her a stern look. His Royal Highness may be young, but the older generations have recognized his capability. This friendly battle won't hurt him. He was displeased with Jun Linyuan too. The crown prince charged into his home with a sword. Not only did he destroy the family's dream, he also threatened to kill his daughter. Zhuo Ming thought the crown prince was utterly arrogant to challenge old Mr. It was time for him to learn a lesson. Lose. Zhuo Ming never considered that possibility. People like his father had gone through many struggles and survived many wars. Not many people in that generation were still alive, but their power was beyond Jun Linyuan's reach. Yes, The crown prince was extremely talented, but it was too early for him to defeat the old man. He needs a few more years, Zhuo Ming said confidently. Feng Sun and Xian Yi looked at each other, both feeling anxious. That idiot. Why did he challenge that terrifying old man so suddenly? If he really wants to do that, why couldn't he wait a few more years? Everybody was waiting anxiously. Boom! The sky seemed to be torn open, and a figure fell from the sky. Boss Jun! Feng Sun cried out. Thump! The figure fell so fast that by the time they realized it, it had smashed into the ground, creating a large crater. Dust filled the air. It was nighttime, so no one could see very clearly. The barrier disappeared, and people could finally enter the courtyard. Feng Sun pushed the door open and ran toward the crater in the ground. Boss Jun, are you all right? He was about to jump into the crater when another person slowly landed. His black robe was spotless. The lower hem of his robe flapped in the wind, adding to his charm. His eyes looked like the brightest stars in the night sky. He pointed Sky Destroyer at the crater. There was blood on the tip of the sword. The blood dripped on the ground and soaked into the dust. Feng Sun stopped short. Boss Jun. He was dumbfounded. Boss Jun was all right. Then, who was the man lying in the crater? There was only one possibility. Feng Sun wasn't the only one who was astonished. Zhuo Ming and Zhuo Qingwan were horrified. They stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. They knew the young man was more handsome than anybody they knew, but they didn't expect to see such a demonstration of power. In the crater was old Mr. Zhuo, the pillar of the family. Zhuo Ming's legs gave out and he dropped to his knees. Zhuo Qingwan froze on the spot. Jun Linyuan had destroyed the one person she could depend on. She didn't know what to say, and her head went blank. Jun Linyuan never looked at her. He only looked at the crater and smirked. Zhuo Qingfeng, if you break the agreement, you know what'll happen. He walked away after that. When he was gone, no one made a sound. The old man slowly crawled out of the crater. Chapter 29-26, Zhuo Qingfeng's compliment. One side of his face was burnt black, while the other side was still normal. It was an eerie sight. Zhuo Qingfeng started spitting blood. There was so much blood. Father! Grandpa! Zhuo Ming and Zhuo Qingwan helped Zhuo Qingfeng to his feet. He was the pillar of their family. What should they do now? Zhuo Qingwan panicked. Grandpa, what happened? Did His Royal Highness do this to you? She almost couldn't bring herself to ask that question because she was afraid of the answer. Zhuo Qingfeng might have many faults, but he didn't like lying. He slowly sat down and nodded. Oh God! It really was Jun Linyuan. Zhuo Qingwan clenched her fists and couldn't decide if she was happy or sad. Zhuo Ming was almost in tears. Father, your level is so advanced, but Jun Linyuan can still injure you. What's his level now? Zhuo Qingwan also looked at Zhuo Qingfeng. Many people wanted to know the answer to that question. Jun Linyuan's cultivation level was unfathomable. Zhuo Qingfeng leaned back in the chair and took a deep breath. A year ago, I would have had no problem defeating him. I didn't know he could make such leaps and bounds in 1 year. He murmured, that shouldn't be the case. He has been making rapid progress for a long time. According to some of the elders, his potential has reached its peak and should move into a steady period. That wasn't steady at all. His cultivation level has skyrocketed. Zhuo Qingfeng coughed violently. Jun Linyuan had severely injured him. It had been years since he fought and was wounded like this. Grandpa, is His Royal Highness's cultivation level higher than yours? Zhuo Qingwan didn't know how she should feel. She was happy that she had chosen Jun Linyuan. He never disappointed her. However, it worried her that she still didn't have the divine phoenix blood, so His Royal Highness didn't have feelings for her. Zhuo Qingfeng raised his head and gave Zhuo Qingfeng a strange look. He sighed. Let it go. What? Zhuo Qingwan's stomach lurched. Zhuo Qingfeng said, he's in love with Feng Wu, not you. After hearing what Jun Linyuan said, Zhuo Qingfeng knew what that girl meant to the crown prince. No one could compete with her. Zhuo Qingwan was astonished. She rose to her feet and stared at Zhuo Qingfeng. Grandpa, His Royal Highness isn't in love with Feng Wu. He likes her divine phoenix blood. Grandpa, please help me. Let's do it again, just like 5 years ago. We'll destroy her divine phoenix blood, so only I have the true phoenix blood. If it's possible, we can take her bloodline and plant it in me. That way, I'll have the divine phoenix blood. That'll be so nice. No one ever said that only Feng Wu is allowed to have the divine phoenix blood. Chapter 29-27. Jun Linyuan loves Feng Wu. Grandpa, please help me. It'll help the family too. Grandpa, don't you want Jun Linyuan as your grandson-in-law? Father, talk to Grandpa. Zhuo Qingwan urged Zhuo Ming. Zhuo Ming looked at Zhuo Qingfeng. Father. Zhuo Qingfeng cut him off. With half of his face charred, Zhuo Qingfeng didn't look as composed as usual. A moment ago, he had been smiling at Jun Linyuan while sipping his tea, but now, he had been defeated. His current condition was a stark contrast to how he had looked before. Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingfeng took a deep breath, the look on his face extremely serious. Remember everything I'm going to say next. You must brand it in your memory. Jun Linyuan loves Feng Wu, not you. He chose me as his opponent because he wanted to punish me to set an example. Zhuo Qingfeng's face was livid. The old man used to be an approachable character. He even looked kind when he was angry. However, he seemed sinister and furious now. Hatred burned in his chest. Jun Linyuan hadn't destroyed his fury. Zhuo Qingfeng only hit it deeper. Do you know why I said that? He asked Zhuo Qingwan. Zhuo Qingwan shook her head. Zhuo Qingfeng said patiently, let me tell you why. The entire empire is coveting Feng Wu's divine phoenix blood now, and Jun Linyuan chose to challenge me because when he defeats me, no one will dare touch Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingwan's heart was pounding. She shook her head and wouldn't believe it. Zhuo Qingfeng moved closer. Do you know why Jun Linyuan chose me? Zhuo Qingwan shook her head. Zhuo Qingfeng said, he probably knows what we did to Feng Wu 5 years ago, but he can't be bothered to gather the evidence. According to him, he didn't fall in love with Feng Wu 5 years ago, so he didn't intervene. From now on, he will be there to protect Feng Wu. If anyone touches her, he'll destroy their whole family. What a shame. Such an outstanding young man fell head over heels for a girl. Zhuo Qingwan was dumbfounded. Tears rolled down her cheeks. No, that's not true. I won't believe it. I can't. Jun Linyuan, if I can't have you, I'd rather die. She clenched her fists and couldn't listen to anything. Zhuo Qingfeng glanced at her and knew what she was thinking, so he said to Zhuo Ming, I've made some arrangements. She'll be sent to Peace Grassland. I believe the war there can quench her fury. If she learns something from it, the Zhuo family will still have a future. He waved his hand after that. A man dressed in black walked out of the shadows. Zhuo Qingfeng nodded at him. The man picked up Zhuo Qingwan and disappeared in a few leaps. They could still hear Zhuo Qingwan yelling. Let go of me. Grandpa, I don't want to go to Peace Grassland. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I want to stay here. I want His Royal Highness. Chapter 29-28. He likes her. The louder her voice was, the faster the man moved. They were soon out of earshot. After Zhuo Qingwan was gone, Zhuo Qingfeng told Zhuo Ming, we must keep a low profile from now on. Zhuo Ming nodded, but he didn't feel that way. His father had lost to Jun Linyuan, but he could still easily defeat anyone else. Zhuo Qingfeng smiled wryly. You don't understand. Extremely capable cultivators could sense the battles between other capable cultivators. Although his battle with Jun Linyuan hadn't lasted long, many people already knew what had happened. Other people of his generation would have learned that he was weaker than Jun Linyuan. They would discipline their family members, telling them not to offend Jun Linyuan or get any funny ideas about the divine phoenix blood. Feng Wu wouldn't need to deal with the trouble created by many of the influential forces. However, Jun Linyuan's weakness had also been exposed in that battle. Jun Linyuan, I don't believe you weren't unaffected by my strike. Zhou Qingfeng smirked. Meanwhile, Jun Linyuan led the others out of the Zhou family manor. Boss Jun, Boss Jun. Jun Linyuan went straight back home to his cultivation room. Wretched that he couldn't hold it back anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. He frowned. Feng wasn't here because Emperor Wu had summoned him. Otherwise, he would have followed Jun Linyuan to the Zhou family. The Emperor's study. Emperor Wu had summoned Feng. He started complaining as soon as the steward walked in. Feng, is that how you brought up that brat? He doesn't look like a crown prince at all. Feng said, Your Majesty, he's just like you. Emperor Wu didn't know what to say. He couldn't deny that. He stared at Feng and sighed. The two men sat down on the stairs and Emperor Wu asked, You know about what's going on with Feng Wu, right? Feng nodded. Emperor Wu asked, What is that brat thinking? Does he like her? Does he want to marry her? I want an answer. Feng said, The answer to both questions is yes. Emperor Wu's eyes lit up. That's great. I'll write up the edict announcing the marriage. Emperor Wu was thrilled. Yes, they've always been engaged, but many people thought that the engagement was annulled. I can't let those people belittle Xiao Wu. I've prepared a nice piece, and I'll put it on paper later. I'll say the nicest things about Xiao Wu. No one can object to that. Feng looked at him in resignation. Emperor Wu asked, What's the problem? Feng said, I don't think you can make that announcement anytime soon. Emperor Wu said, Didn't you say the answer is yes? What's the problem? Feng said, Your Majesty, you know what your son is like. Emperor Wu's face darkened. What's his problem? Xiao Wu has the divine phoenix blood. If he doesn't make a move now, it'll be too late. Guess what? I received these today. Emperor Wu showed Feng a thick stack of papers. Chapter 2929. Excellent idea. These are the lists of all the gifts the influential forces are sending to the imperial capital. They all want to marry their sons to Xiao Wu. I'm so worried. After all, Xiao Wu isn't exactly head over heels for Junjun, Emperor Wu said honestly. Feng nodded. It was obvious that the crown prince liked Feng Wu more than the other way around. He was the disadvantaged party, and she could be more willful. What's his problem? You've been with him for so many years, so tell me. Otherwise, why do I need you? Emperor Wu was a little mad. Feng smiled bitterly. Well, his problem is with the divine phoenix blood. What? Isn't it good enough? Emperor Wu asked grumpily. Feng nodded. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness is a proud man. He wants to marry Feng Wu, not the divine phoenix blood. Emperor Wu was confused. Feng Wu and the divine phoenix blood are the same thing. What's the difference? What a dumb question. Feng said, Your Majesty, that may be the case with everybody else, but it is definitely not how your son sees it. Emperor Wu shrugged. Tell me more about it. Feng said, His Royal Highness is a perfectionist. I'm sure you see that in his cultivation practice. Emperor Wu nodded. Yes. He cultivates like there's no tomorrow. When he was little, he didn't want to interrupt his cultivation streak, so he stayed 3 days in the snow. Feng nodded. His Royal Highness has the same requirement when it comes to relationships. He'll marry Miss Feng Wu, but it won't be for her divine phoenix blood. He'll agree to a marriage agreement, but he won't want to force her to marry him because of an imperial edict. He wants her to marry him willingly. Your Majesty, if I were you, I wouldn't intervene. It'll make things more complicated. I could have intervened many times, but relationships need to be worked on. We're outsiders. If we meddle, it'll only distract the two of them. One thing is for sure, they're moving in the right direction, which is a good thing. Your Majesty, your edict will have to wait until they're both willing to acknowledge the relationship. Emperor Wu looked at Feng in resignation. Is that the only way? Feng said, I'm afraid so. Emperor Wu said, "All right. I'll hold back on the edict, but you have to show him these lists. He needs to know he has competition." Jun Linyuan was still treating his wounds when Feng returned home. Feng Sun and Xian Yi guarded the door. "What happened?" Feng asked. Feng Sun told him Jun Linyuan fought with Zhucheng Feng earlier that day. Feng frowned. "Does he have a death wish? He's not as capable as Zhucheng Feng." Feng Sun said, "What? Didn't Boss Jun win?" Feng said, "He did, but at a cost." "Well, he likes the challenge." An idea suddenly struck Feng. Chapter 29:30. Leave her alone. "Feng, what's on your mind? Why you smiling like that?" Feng Sun's stomach lurched. Feng wouldn't carry out the task himself. He was supposed to be an unapproachable steward. He waved at Feng Sun, and Feng Sun quickly ran to his side. Feng put a stack of papers in his hands. "What are these?" Feng Sun was curious. Feng said, "They're from His Majesty. All the major forces want to propose to Xiao Wu." Feng Wu said, "Are they blind? Don't they know Xiao Wu isn't available anymore?" Feng rolled his eyes at him. Feng Sun got it right away. Boss Jun hadn't made the announcement yet. Feng Sun thought about Boss Jun's injury. If he heard from other people that so many people wanted to propose to Feng Wu, he would turn the imperial capital upside down. At that thought, Feng Sun told Feng, "We can't keep it from Boss Jun. If he loses his temper, no one can stop him." Feng said calmly, "Is that right?" Feng Sun said, "Yes, it is. You've been with Boss Jun for so long. You know what he's like. If he sees all the gifts going into the Feng Manor, I can't imagine what'll happen." Feng rubbed his chin. "I see." Feng Sun said, "This file says they're moving as fast as they can and they'll get here tonight. No. I have to tell him now. It can't wait." He then rushed inside. Xian Yi was going to follow him inside, when Feng said, "I hear that Miss Feng Wu is a good doctor." Xian Yi was amazed. He had just gotten a glimpse of the real Feng. That night, ordinary people in the imperial capital didn't sense anything strange. Little did they know that 15 kilometers outside the imperial capital, people were scattered all over the ground. Apart from the Zhou family and the downgraded Xianyuan family, all the major families and forces had sent their elite young members. Only the monks of the Sumeru Temple and the beggars' gang didn't get involved. Firmament Palace was here too. "Send the gift. I dare you." His sword moved. He made one furious, single strike. The strike was powerful enough to split the ground open. The Crown Prince spared no effort. There was a 10-meter gash on the 15M road leading to the imperial capital. One strike. Carriages tipped over, and men and horses fell all over the ground. They were all terrified but had no idea what had happened. Feng Sun was kind enough to remind them, "If you want to marry Feng Wu, you'll have to go through Boss Jun." They didn't see Jun Linyuan's face in the dark, but they remembered his sword. He left as swiftly as he came after successfully intimidating everybody. The son of the Hua family fell backward on the ground and still hadn't recovered. After that strike, the Crown Prince stumbled and almost fell. He soon disappeared. "Boss Jun? Boss Jun?" Feng Sun and Xian Yi ran after him. The Crown Prince asked, "Who else wants to take up the challenge?" Feng Sun said, "No, there's no one. Your strike sent the warning. No one will mess with Xiao Wu again." Chapter 29:31. Awake. Xian Yi nodded. Only an idiot would try to propose to her again. The Crown Prince swayed because his spiritual essence was drained. "Take me home." "Sure." Feng Sun and Xian Yi exchanged a mischievous look. The last words Jun Linyuan said were, "Don't tell her." He lost consciousness before hearing a reply from Feng Sun or Xian Yi. Knock, knock, knock. Somebody knocked on Feng Wu's window in Fallen Star Yard. Feng Wu frowned. She had set up a barrier. Apart from Feng Sun and a few others, no one else could come in. She pushed the window open to find several people outside. It was Feng Sun and Xian Yi, but Xianyi seemed to have someone on his back. Feng Sun said anxiously, Xiao Wu, please help us. You're our only hope now. Feng Wu asked, what happened? Feng Sun pushed Jun Linyuan into Feng Wu's arms. Before Feng Wu realized what was going on, she was holding Jun Linyuan, who was unconscious and covered in blood. She was dumbfounded. Feng Sun said, Boss Jun is dying. Please help him. He's in this state because of you. You have to do something. Jun Linyuan had ordered them not to tell Feng Wu, so Feng Sun didn't go into detail. He was sure she could figure it out on her own. Feng Sun pleaded with Feng Wu, please don't send him back. When His Majesty hears the news later, he'll hold Boss Jun responsible. Please let Boss Jun hide here. Feng Wu was speechless. Feng Sun and Xian Yi left as soon as they could. Feng Wu was speechless. She looked from Jun Linyuan to the night sky, and decided to save his life first. Just then she heard some noise outside. It seemed someone had woken up. Feng Wu was a strong girl. She picked up Jun Linyuan and carried him into her room, shutting the door behind her. The most important thing was to figure out what was wrong with him. Feng Wu put him on the bed and examined his injuries. She unbuttoned his robe, revealing his skin. Feng Wu was speechless. She had thought she could remain calm, like an ordinary doctor. Ahem. Feng Wu cleared her throat to calm herself down. Just then she felt someone staring at her. Looking up, she saw it was Jun Linyuan. He was awake. I thought you passed out. Feng Wu cried out. The teenager's eyes were exceptionally bright in the dark. I'm awake. Feng Wu asked, do you know what happened? Do you know you're injured? Injured? The crown prince coughed violently. She gave him a glass of water and said gently, don't get excited. Take it slow. She then fed him some water. The crown prince was dumbfounded. Usually, she would run away from him as fast as she could. Why was she so gentle now? The crown prince studied her. After feeding him water, Feng Wu said, lay back down and let me examine your wounds. Chapter 29:32, Leave Me Alone. The girl meticulously examined the boy's body, and he couldn't take his eyes off her face. His eyes were sparkling. Feng Wu frowned when she saw the palm print on Jun Linyuan's chest. Who did this to you? Jun Linyuan thought, she looks like an angry bunny. He snorted. I burned one side of his entire body. I won that battle. Feng Wu jabbed his head with a finger. Don't brag. The crown prince had to remain silent. Feng Wu put some treatment powder on his chest. What was the fight about? The crown prince looked at her with sparkling eyes. He quickly looked away when their eyes met, pretending that he hadn't been looking at her. Feng Wu said, who did you want to teach a lesson this time? Why were you fighting in the middle of the night? What did you do to yourself? The crown prince mumbled, none of your business. Feng Wu said, I'm asking you for your own good. Do you know how severe your injury is? The internal injury is much worse than the external ones. Luckily you're strong enough. An ordinary person would be dead by now. The crown prince snapped, I told you, it's none of your business. He wanted to get up and leave, but he was too weak to move a muscle. Feng Wu just poked him with one finger, and he fell back onto the bed. Feng Wu said, are you a kid? You want to run back home whenever you're angry. The crown prince ground his teeth. Other people might fear to upset Jun Linyuan, but Feng Wu didn't. Why are there 2 layers of injuries? Did you fight twice tonight? The crown prince didn't reply. Feng Wu stared at him. You were badly injured in your first battle, but you still had another battle. Are you an idiot? The crown prince looked away and wouldn't meet her eyes. What should he say? He could have protected himself from getting injured, but he activated all his spiritual essence to create that shocking effect. As a result, he had wounds one on top of each other. Feng Wu said angrily, Feng Sun didn't stop you? The crown prince was glad to see this, and he nodded. Yes. Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan. When you get angry, 100 Feng Suns put together can't stop you. You can't blame him. The crown prince looked at Feng Wu. He was so good-looking, and his eyes were like the brightest stars in the sky. However, those stars were staring at her now. What could she do? She no longer felt so angry. She told Jun Linyuan, "You're very strong, but don't do that again. Use your sword." "But I would do anything for you," the Crown Prince thought. Feng Wu asked, "Is that clear?" The Crown Prince said, "Yes." Feng Wu suddenly realized how obedient Jun Linyuan was being today. He had always been so proud, and she could never make him listen to her. But he was being so lovely now. Chapter 29:33. Adorable. He looked so adorable that she wanted to rub his head. Feng Wu said, "You need to stay in bed for the next 3 days. No extraneous activities for a month, and don't eat food that can irritate your injuries. Can you remember that?" The Crown Prince shook his head. "No." Feng Wu said, "Why can't you remember such a simple thing?" Jun Linyuan glared at him. Why should a Crown Prince remember such a thing? Feng Wu scratched her head. He had a point. "I'll fetch Feng tomorrow." Feng Wu glanced at him. She didn't know that Feng was visiting his hometown. "You need some new clothes?" Feng Wu frowned. It was early spring, and the wind was still quite chilly. She told Jun Linyuan, "Wait here. I'll find you some clothes." She searched her drawers and closet until she found a night robe. "Why do you have a man's robe in your room?" The Crown Prince wanted to kill somebody. Feng Wu said, "I made it for Xiaoqi. There are bunny ears on the hoodie. Isn't it lovely? Put it on." The Crown Prince stared at her in disbelief. Feng Wu said, "I know all your clothes are made from expensive material. Even the threads have silver and gold in them, but this is all I have. Do you want to wear your dirty clothes?" The Crown Prince said impatiently, "Don't you have anything else?" Feng Wu shrugged. "Nope. That's all I have. I made it bigger because I don't know when Xiaoqi will be back. You know, Grand Secretary Feng took him away on a long trip." The Crown Prince grunted, "I didn't know that." He didn't care either. Feng Wu went on, "I wonder how they're doing now. Life on the road must be so inconvenient." The Crown Prince didn't like hearing Feng Wu talk about Xiaoqi all the time. Even as he put on the robe, he decided to burn it to ash later. When Xiaoqi came back, there wouldn't be anything left. Before Feng Wu knew it, the Crown Prince had put on the robe. His skin was smooth and fair. His deep-set eyes were intimidating on ordinary days, but his injuries made him let down his guard, so he looked like a sleepy tiger. Feng Wu almost wanted to rub his head. "You look so nice." Feng Wu was pleased with her work. "Don't start fights again. Xiaoqi is a good boy. He never starts fights." The mention of Xiaoqi annoyed the Crown Prince. "Get out," he snapped. Feng Wu asked, "Why are you so grumpy all of a sudden?" Jun Linyuan said, "Get out of my sight now." Feng Wu said, "You're unbelievable. This is my room, and you're asking me to leave? Fine. I'll leave you alone. Enjoy." She left the room after that. She couldn't understand it. She and Jun Linyuan had been having a peaceful moment, but he suddenly lost his temper. She didn't know what happened. Feng Wu paced back and forth along the river. Chapter 29:34. His Majesty wants to see you. Meanwhile, Feng Sun and Xian Yi were enjoying drinks behind closed doors. Feng Sun said, "We've sent Boss Jun to Xiao Wu's home. We've accomplished our mission, right?" Xian Yi drained his glass. Yup. He had always had feelings for Feng Wu, but he knew he couldn't let anybody know, nor did he want to. Feng Sun couldn't tell and just laughed. They've dragged this thing out for too long. They'll marry eventually, so they may as well do it now. Xian Yi had a bitter taste in his mouth. "You're right." Feng Sun looked like a happy mouse. "What do you think they're doing now?" The answer was, nothing. The Crown Prince was so frustrated because he usually was the one who walked away, but Feng Wu was the one who did it today. Unbelievable. He wanted to run after her but was too weak to do so. Feng Wu had put some sleep-inducing ingredients in his medicine to make him sleep better, and it was taking effect now. He couldn't move or make a sound when he wanted to call Feng Wu's name. Couldn't she come back herself? The crown prince kicked away his blanket and turned to face the wall. Feng Wu calmed down when the cool air outside blew on her face. Jun Linyuan had always been like this. Given his severe internal injury, he couldn't activate his spiritual essence. Of course he would feel frustrated. Feng Wu felt she shouldn't have bickered with him. She felt so childish. She patted her own head. Someone suddenly showed up when she was about to return to her room. Feng Wu almost jumped. Master Gao? It was Master Gao, the eunuch and the chief steward of Emperor Wu. He bowed. Miss Feng Wu, His Majesty wants to see you. Feng Wu looked perplexed. She had met Emperor Wu on many occasions, which was why she was so surprised when she saw him. He looked so angry, like he was going to explode. Xiao Wu, you're here. Tell me, have you seen that brat Jun Linyuan? Feng Wu said, what? She looked so innocent when she shook her head in confusion. Anybody would believe her. You really haven't seen him? I'm so mad. Emperor Wu didn't even give Feng Wu time to answer. She just sat there and watched the emperor complain about his son. Do you know what he did last night? He went out to fight. Do you know with whom? Zhuo Qingfeng. Do you know who Zhuo Qingfeng is? Emperor Wu went on before Feng Wu could answer. He's Zhuo Qingluan's grandfather. That brat went to fight Zhuo Qingfeng on his own. He's of the older generation and is so much more capable. What made that brat so bold? Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Wait, he went to challenge Zhuo Qingluan's grandfather? Feng Wu was confused. Emperor Wu stared at her. You don't know. Deep down, she knew the answer, but she insisted, no, I don't. I heard Junjun and Zhuo Qingfeng reached an agreement. If Zhuo Qingfeng lost, he would have to keep his promise. Emperor Wu stared at Feng Wu. Chapter 2935. How did I do? Feng Wu asked, what agreement? Emperor Wu asked, do you really want to know? You won't be able to unhear it. Feng Wu was speechless. She thought for a few seconds before nodding solemnly. Please tell me. Emperor Wu was serious. I talked to Zhuo Qingfeng afterward and learned what their agreement was. Feng Wu looked at him. Emperor Wu said, Zhuo Qingfeng has agreed not to get involved in the competition between you and Zhuo Qingluan. Feng Wu looked perplexed. Emperor Wu asked, you understand what that's about? Feng Wu said, so, Jun Linyuan made sure that the competition would only be between Zhuo Qingluan and me. No matter how miserably she loses, her family can't get involved. Is that it? Emperor Wu nodded. If the Zhuo family dares try anything, Jun Linyuan will support you and help you handle the seniors of the Zhuo family. Feng Wu was speechless. Jun Linyuan had made sure the senior members of the Zhuo family wouldn't interfere. All Feng Wu needed to do was take care of Zhuo Qingluan. She wouldn't be distracted by her family. He did more than that. Do you know what he did? He destroyed the marriage proposal gifts sent by many families. What gifts? Feng Wu was perplexed. The whole empire knows you have the divine phoenix blood, and many people have plans for you. With a single strike, he created a 10-meter wide gap in the ground 15 kilometers outside the imperial capital. The common folk in the capital city won't have fresh vegetables to eat today because the vendors can't cross the wide gap. Do you know how much trouble he has caused? Emperor Wu put his hands behind his back and arrogantly paced around the room. He also glanced at Feng Wu from time to time and exchanged knowing looks with Master Gao. He was obviously up to something. Feng Wu was still dazed by the information, or she would have realized that Emperor Wu was putting in a good word for his son. He did all that to protect you. Emperor Wu concluded. Feng Wu said, what? What are you talking about? She couldn't stand it when other people were too nice to her. She didn't want to owe other people favors, and would want to return them right away. She felt undeserving after hearing what Jun Linyuan had done for her. That explained his severe wounds. He fought Zhuo Qingfeng first before making that strike 15 kilometers outside the city. What a day! Feng Wu didn't know what to say. After everything he did for her, he didn't tell her anything. Feng Wu headed for the door. Emperor Wu feigned a concerned tone. Xiao Wu, where are you going? I haven't finished yet. Xiao Wu. Feng Wu was soon out of sight, and Emperor Wu turned to ask someone hidden in the shadows. Feng, how did I do? There he was, the steward whom Feng Wu had been looking everywhere for. So much was going on in Feng Wu's head that she felt both happy and confused. It was so overwhelming that she couldn't make a decision. However, she knew there was something she needed to do now. He had done so much for her divine phoenix blood and had even gotten injured for it. Instead of thanking him, she made him upset. If she were him, she knew she would have exploded by now. Chapter 2936, Unhappy Crown Prince. Of course, Feng Wu didn't rush to apologize to Jun Linyuan. Being so straightforward wasn't her thing. This was so embarrassing. She stalled for as long as she could. After making some chicken porridge, she squeezed some fresh juice and carried everything on a tray. She knocked on the door. No one answered. Feng Wu knew Jun Linyuan must still be mad at her. She pushed the door open and put the tray on Jun Linyuan's bedside table. The crown prince was facing the door at first, but he turned to face the wall when Feng Wu came in. How old are you? Feng Wu wanted to ask him. She had a hard time connecting this childish teenager to the person who created the two incidents that shook the entire Junwo Empire the night before. She crouched down and poked Jun Linyuan's back with a finger. He moved a little at her touch. Feng Wu asked, Are you hungry? Would you like some porridge? The crown prince ignored her and went on sulking. Feng Wu sat down on the edge of the bed and tugged at his blanket. Lying on your side isn't good for your wounds. You should lie on your back. Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at her, thinking, just let me die. It's not like anybody will care. However, he didn't say that out loud. He eventually listened to Feng Wu and lay on his back. Feng Wu fetched some cushions to put behind his back so that he could sit up. We made these cushions. Aren't they adorable? Feng Wu waved the rabbit ears on the cushion. It's the same as your robe. Childish, the crown prince commented. Childish? You're wearing the pattern, Feng Wu thought. Things were a little easier now that Jun Linyuan was talking to her. Feng Wu tried to bring up the subject. Actually, last night. The crown prince glared at her in frustration. I don't want to talk about it. Feng Wu looked perplexed. The crown prince said, not a word. He still felt embarrassed about destroying those gifts that way. It felt good, but probably everybody now knew how he felt about Feng Wu. He wanted to roll over in bed and bury his face in the pillow. Feng Wu wanted to tell him she knew what he had done for her, but Jun Linyuan wouldn't let her talk about it. Well, she would make it up to him and return the favor. It wouldn't be too difficult since her master was the most capable man on this continent, and she also had several senior brothers. Feng Wu showed him the glass of juice. I squeezed the plum juice myself. Won't you try it? The crown prince was still upset about her putting sleep-inducing ingredients in his water. He looked at Feng Wu. How do I know you didn't put sleeping powder in it again? Feng Wu took a sip. See? It's safe. She was going to drink the juice and make another fresh glass for Jun Linyuan later. Before she knew it, the crown prince had drained the glass. Feng Wu said, the chicken porridge is really delicious. I made it myself. The crown prince glanced at her. Really? Why was he upset again? Chapter 2937, The Look. Feng Wu couldn't figure out what upset him this time. She picked up the bowl of porridge, but he wouldn't even look at her. Feng Wu was speechless. Fine, you spoiled young prince. She scooped some porridge and held the spoon up in front of Jun Linyuan's mouth. Your Royal Highness, have some porridge. The teenager glanced at her. How do I know you didn't put any sleeping powder in it? Feng Wu took a deep breath. What do you think I want to do to you? Why would I drug you all the time? No, I can't get angry. Jun Linyuan is a very difficult prince. I have to make him happy. Feng Wu put on a pleasant smile. I'll take a bite first. She ate the porridge and found it quite tasty. Will you have some now, your royal highness? She smiled at him. The crown prince said, your smile is so fake. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Nothing makes you happy, does it? Are you going to eat it or not? If not, I'm taking it back to the kitchen. She rose to her feet. Hey! The crown prince said grumpily, did I say I wasn't going to eat it? Be patient. The crown prince gave her an accusing look. Feng Wu thought he's mad at me, right? But why is he so good-looking? His eyes are so bright. In that rabbit sleeping gown he looks so soft and lovely. Ugly people were unbearable when they got angry. Good-looking people were still attractive when they were mad. What a world! The crown prince said, my arms are weak. Feng Wu said, shall I feed you? She felt rather embarrassed. The crown prince's ears were a little pink, but to conceal how happy he was, he said impatiently, whatever. Feng Wu was speechless. Should she feed him or not? She lifted a spoonful of porridge to his lips and he ate it. She tried again, and the crown prince ate everything on the spoon. Feng Wu couldn't understand why he would still pretend when he was so hungry. He finished the bowl of porridge in this awkward way. Feng Wu wanted to take the bowl to the kitchen, but the crown prince stared at her in disbelief. Feng Wu was speechless. What did she do now? The crown prince said, don't you rinse your mouth after a meal? Feng Wu said, sure. The prince had made a request. Feng Wu fed him some water. However, he frowned. Too hot. Feng Wu tried the water. It's not that hot. The crown prince looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu said, alright, I'll blow on it to cool it down. When she wasn't looking, the crown prince smiled a little, but he wiped the smile off his face as soon as Feng Wu turned to him. His expression changed so fast that Feng Wu thought it was an illusion. I probably saw wrong. Feng Wu rubbed her eyes. The crown prince was a fussy man. It took Feng Wu an hour to finish the meal. During that hour, Feng Wu ran back and forth like a servant, doing things like trying the temperature of the water or massaging his back. Chapter 2938. Who did it? An hour later, Qiuling's voice came from outside. Miss. The crown prince glared at the door. Qiuling might have improved, but she hadn't reached the spiritual lord stage yet. Sensing the crown prince's cold energy, she felt her blood curdle. She immediately stopped talking. Hearing the noise, Feng Wu wanted to go outside. The crown prince frowned. Don't go. Feng Wu looked back at Jun Linyuan and saw him staring at her like an abandoned puppy. She felt butterflies in her stomach. She said softly, I'm going to tell Qiuling your condition. My family doesn't know you're here yet. They'll be frightened by the news. Jun Linyuan asked, do I look that frightening? Feng Wu was amused. She said, you're good-looking, but your prominent status is quite scary. I'll be right back. There are some books on the desk. Feel free to have a look. Feng Wu then left the room, ignoring his reluctance. Qiuling heard every word of their conversation. Granny Zhao, Qiuling, and the beautiful lady were all there. Qiuling was so scared that she could barely speak. His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness. She pointed at the room as she spoke. Feng Wu nodded. Yes, he's inside. Miss, did he kidnap you? Qiuling was almost in tears. Her mistress normally couldn't stay far away enough from the crown prince. Why would she let him into her room? I'll do anything to keep you safe, Miss Wu. Qiuling wanted to rush into the room. She knew her strength was puny in comparison, but she still wouldn't give up. Feng Wu stopped her. Just then, Chaoga rushed into the courtyard. She said, Xiao Wu, everybody knows about your divine phoenix blood now. I heard so many major families want to marry you to their sons. I'm sure the Zhou family will try to plot against you again, but we won't let that happen. We'll protect you. Chaoga clenched her fists. Qiuling and Granny Zhao nodded. Neither of them would let anyone mistreat Feng Wu. Feng Wu was speechless. Before she could speak, she heard hasty footsteps outside. Miss Wu, I heard some shocking news. Uncle Qiu ran into the courtyard. Something happened in the Zhua family last night, and nearly half of the manor has disappeared. I heard they were struck by lightning in the middle of the night. Feng Wu smacked her forehead. There are many carriages and trunks 15 kilometers outside the city. Judging from the emblems on them, they're from several different families. Chaoga grabbed her sword. They're here to propose to Xiao Wu. How annoying. I'll kick them out. Qiuling and Granny Zhao were worried. There were so few of them. How are they going to get rid of the big families? Uncle Qiu stopped Chaoga. Miss Duan, please let me finish. The carriages and trunks were all over the ground, as if somebody had robbed the owners. Robbed? Feng Wu rubbed her temples. She knew what had happened. Of course, Jun Linyuan wouldn't have struck just once. Chapter 2939. Was it Yuminji? Even if Jun Linyuan only struck once, Feng Sun wouldn't let those people leave so easily. He would force them to leave something behind. Chaoga was surprised. Really? Were they robbed? Uncle Qiu said, Yes, I checked it myself. There's a 10-meter wide gap in the ground that runs for tens of kilometers. Chaoga asked, Who dug it? Uncle Qiu said, I heard it was created with a sword. Chaoga said, Wow, who did that? I want to be their student. Inside, Jun Linyuan felt both abashed and proud. He even smiled a little. Fallen Star Yard was particularly crowded today. They were still chatting when Feng Sun and Xian Yi arrived. Feng Sun rubbed his shoulders and back as if he was tired. He said to Xian Yi, I was so tired last night. That strike, I'm telling you. Feng Sun. Chaoga's eyes lit up, and she grabbed Feng Sun's sleeve. You know who did it, don't you? You know the person who got rid of the proposal gifts. The Crown Prince grew nervous. Ahem. He cleared his throat as a warning to Feng Sun. Feng Sun's stomach lurched because Boss Jun had told him not to tell anybody, so he told Chaoga, Who else do you think could have done that? It's so easy to guess. Was it Master Linghu? Chaoga guessed. Feng Sun said, Do you think Master Linghu has nothing better to do than meddle in mundane things? The Crown Prince cleared his throat again. Realizing what he had said, Feng Sun wanted to slap himself. You've met him before. You'll be able to guess without me saying anything. I'm starving. Xian Yi, let's get some breakfast. Xian Yi glanced at Feng Wu and left with Feng Sun without saying a word. Feng Wu didn't notice the glance because she was thinking about Jun Linyuan. Chaoga was still guessing. Who is it? Feng Wu said, Don't worry. Nobody will try to steal my divine phoenix blood again. Qiuling was pleasantly surprised. Really? Are you sure? How's that possible? They coveted your true phoenix blood. Are you sure your divine phoenix blood is safe? Up on the wall, Feng Sun said, Zhua Qingwan has been sent to Peace Grassland. What do you think? He jumped off the wall after that. Qiuling was amazed. Zhua Qingwan was really sent away? And those annoying families too? Xiao Wu will have some peace again. Who is that secret person? Chaoga said, Xiao Wu, after what they did for you, how will you thank them? She didn't know that Jun Linyuan was inside. The closed door couldn't keep the Crown Prince from hearing her. Feng Wu looked at Chaoga in resignation. Don't you have better things to do? Chaoga looked at Feng Wu. Could it be Yuminji? That sounds like something he would do. The Crown Prince had been smiling, but he couldn't smile now. Chapter 2940, Brother Jun. Outside, Feng Sun and Xian Yi were so frustrated. They had been busy the whole night, and that stupid Yuminji was going to take the credit. No, that couldn't happen. Feng Wu glanced at her room and smiled a little. That's possible. Jun Linyuan didn't say a word. Feng Wu, you're blind. I'm so mad. Qiuling and Chaoga praised Yuminji, saying that he was good-looking, capable and nice to Xiao Wu. Feng Wu couldn't stand it anymore. It may not be him. It could be the Crown Prince. Do you really think His Royal Highness would do something like that? Chaoga said. If that's the case, you can have my head as your stool. Feng Wu was speechless. How bold. Qiuling suddenly realized something and covered Chaoga's mouth. Shoo! Chaoga said, "What's the matter? You know what His Royal Highness is like. He's arrogant and unapproachable. Yes, he likes Xiao Wu, but he's always ordering her around." Duan Chaoga, stop it. Feng Wu couldn't listen to her anymore. The crown prince was right inside. Chaoga could get herself killed. Meanwhile, Qiuling was already whispering into Chaoga's ear while pointing at Feng Wu's room. Chaoga's eyes widened in fear. She stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu nodded. Chaoga thought, holy crap. Why is the crown prince here so early in the morning? I'll check out that place 15 kilometers outside the city. It can't possibly have been Yu Minji who made that strike. I think it was probably His Royal Highness. I'm off. There was a whoosh. Chaoga ran as fast as her legs could carry her. She rushed outside to see Feng Sun. Feng Sun mouthed to her the bad news. It was Boss Jun. Thump. Chaoga fainted in his arms. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was telling Qiuling and the others to go about their day as usual for the next few days while the crown prince was staying with her. She also mouthed to the others that Jun Linyuan was indeed the person they had been talking about. Granny Zhao and the others were greatly moved, and Feng Wu slipped back into her room. The room was freezing cold when she walked in. There was ice on the window panes. It was so cold. Feng Wu shuddered. The teenager on the bed was sulking. Feng Wu felt a little guilty for having brought up Yu Minji. Ahem. She walked up to the crown prince, but he wouldn't even look at her. Feng Wu felt the cushion behind his back. Even the cushion was cold to the touch. He was very mad. Feng Wu suddenly felt very bad. He was easily agitated and was here to show off his achievements. She shouldn't have upset him. She had to take care of it herself. She felt Jun Linyuan's forehead and pretended to be surprised. You're so cold. Are you sick? The crown prince wouldn't answer. Feng Wu knew he was angry. Jun Linyuan. He still wouldn't say anything. Jun. He still wouldn't say anything. Brother Jun. Feng Wu called him in a sweet voice. Chapter 2941. Hard to please. She already had a soft voice, and when she spoke like that, it was practically irresistible. Brother Jun, are you asleep? The crown prince realized he couldn't stay angry anymore. He felt like a deflated puffer fish. Sensing the change in his mood, Feng Wu knew she had done the right thing. I don't think it was Yu Minji. Feng Wu moved closer. He's not nearly capable enough to create that wide gap. The crown prince thought, yes, that's right. Feng Wu said, I heard half of the Zhou family's house is gone. Who could it be? I'm so glad. The crown prince buried his face in the duvet and smiled shyly. Feng Wu said, I really don't like Zhou Qingluan. She destroyed my true phoenix blood 5 years ago. I won't forgive her. The crown prince felt sorry for her. Feng Wu said, I wonder why that mysterious expert was so helpful? He took revenge on my behalf before I needed to do anything. The crown prince almost wanted to say something, but he was supposed to be sulking. He fought back his impulse. Feng Wu thought, when is he going to lighten up? She had no choice but to continue. Feng Wu rested her chin on her hands and said sweetly, I really want to meet that great expert. I'm sure he's very handsome. I wonder if I'll ever get to see him? She was saying all the nice things she could think of, and hoped the crown prince would start talking. She glanced at Jun Linyuan. Only then did the crown prince slowly turn around. Feng Wu helped him lean on the cushion. He glanced at Feng Wu. Do you really want to meet that person? Feng Wu's eyes twinkled. Yes, they do. He helped me get rid of Zhou Qingluan and all those people. I'm so grateful. The crown prince said, he didn't do it for you. Feng Wu asked, why did he do it, then? Jun Linyuan said, he didn't have anything better to do. Feng Wu asked, how do you know? The crown prince realized what he had said. Feng Wu had tricked him. However, he then realized Feng Wu was admiring somebody she didn't know. The temperature dropped again, But Feng Wu didn't know why. She was confused. Why was he mad again? He looked even angrier now. Feng Wu thought, how much anger does this man have? Feng Wu asked, what did I do? Jun Linyuan stared at her. Aren't you ashamed? She was dumbfounded. Jun Linyuan said, a girl should be reserved. Feng Wu said, Jun Linyuan pointed at her. You're not reserved enough. Feng Wu didn't know who that man was, so she was admiring a stranger. The idea made Jun Linyuan want to kill someone. Feng Wu was upset by the criticism and decided to give up. May Jun Linyuan be struck by lightning. She stormed off. Chapter 2942, Reconciliation. The Crown Prince felt a little guilty after saying those words. He grew anxious when he saw that Feng Wu was going to leave. He jumped out of bed and grabbed Feng Wu's arm. Feng Wu said angrily, let go of me. Jun Linyuan said, no, I won't. Feng Wu said, let go. Jun Linyuan said, I'm not letting you go. Feng Wu said, you told me off. Tears welled up in her eyes. She felt so awful. She was only trying to make him happy, but he only scolded her. She wouldn't have made up those things if she didn't know he was that man. Her beautiful master was more capable than anybody else. Why should she admire somebody else? She was very mad. The Crown Prince grabbed her so hard that blue veins popped on the back of his hand. He was worried that she would leave as soon as he let go. He thought, I was only jealous. But he couldn't tell her that. He suddenly put a hand on his chest. He turned pale and sweat rolled down his face. Feng Wu suddenly remembered Jun Linyuan's severe internal injury. Didn't I tell you to stay in bed for the next 3 days? Have you forgotten what I said? She pushed Jun Linyuan back onto the bed. After she tucked Jun Linyuan in, she realized that she couldn't walk away. He was holding onto the lower hem of her skirt. Feng Wu was speechless. She stared at him, and he looked at her like a wronged puppy. Feng Wu thought, if you keep looking at me like that, I'll change my mind. She didn't know what to say. This man was supposed to be a relentless fighter. She feigned a serious demeanor. The Crown Prince looked even more aggrieved. Don't go. Seeing that Feng Wu was still angry, the Crown Prince said, this is the first time I'm staying overnight in somebody else's home. So, I don't know how long my father will stay angry. Feng Wu thought, who cares? My grandmother will be so worried. Feng Wu was speechless. She recalled what Emperor Wu said. Jun Linyuan had challenged Zhuo Chengfeng, who was several levels higher than he was. He was so bold. The Empress Dowager doted on Jun Linyuan. She would be devastated if she knew how much Jun Linyuan went through. At that thought, Feng Wu didn't feel so upset anymore. Jun Linyuan had risked his life for her. She wanted to ask Jun Linyuan how he got injured so that he could tell her the truth, but she was also worried that he would ask her to make a choice. Growing up was so much trouble. She wished she was still a little baby. She looked at Jun Linyuan, and Jun Linyuan looked back at her. One could almost see pink bubbles in the air. Feng Wu suddenly blushed. She cleared her throat. I'm not angry anymore. What about you? The Crown Prince wouldn't tell her that he wasn't, so he changed the subject. Your shoes are so ugly. Feng Wu looked down. She wore her fluffy winter slippers at home, and they were much more comfortable than the embroidered shoes of this world. Feng Wu said, they're indoor shoes I wear at home. Who wants to wear boots? They're rigid, and your feet can't breathe. All my family members wear these slippers. I even made a pair for Feng Xiaoqi myself. Do you have any at your house? Chapter 2943, I don't like her hands. Feng Wu glanced at Jun Linyuan, feeling proud of her work. The Crown Prince gave her a meaningful look. Feng Wu said, shall I ask Granny Zhao to make a pair for you? The Crown Prince didn't cheer up. Feng Wu asked, 2 pairs? The Crown Prince looked even more unhappy. Feng Wu said, shall I make them myself? The Crown Prince finally looked at her, but his tone was still very proud. Make them here. Otherwise, How will I know if they were made by you? That way, she would have to stay by his side. Feng Wu didn't know what the crown prince's preference was. He had made her embroider 2 ducks before, and knew how poor her skills were. Why would he want her to make him some slippers? But if he wasn't worried, why should she be? She started right away. Feng Wu asked Qiuling to bring in the materials for the fluffy slippers. Qiuling didn't dare look at the person on the bed when she came in. It was so scary. She was worried that Feng Wu couldn't do it, but when she sensed the crown prince's cold energy, she put down the basket and ran for the door. She summoned up her courage to look at the person on the bed before closing the door. One glance and she thought she would faint. That relentless crown prince was wearing such an adorable sleeping robe. Was he really the cold-blooded crown prince? Qiuling wasn't as bold as Chowga. She didn't dare look at him again. She only breathed again once she closed the door behind her. Granny Zhao and the others all wanted to know how things were going in the room, and the beautiful lady was very curious. Qiuling whispered, "His Royal Highness isn't angry." Granny Zhao wouldn't believe it since the crown prince was so scary. Qiuling said in a tiny voice, "His Royal Highness is wearing that bunny robe." Granny Zhao was astonished. Qiuling said, "Yes. He doesn't seem scary and almost looks adorable." Granny Zhao said, "Chowga said the same thing." Both girls had called the relentless crown prince adorable. Qiuling covered her mouth and shook her head. She just felt that when His Royal Highness looked at her mistress, his eyes were so bright. It was like her mistress had brought a god down to earth. Inside, Feng Wu glanced at Jun Linyuan again. "I need to warn you, my sewing is mediocre at best." Jun Linyuan said, "It's not like I haven't seen it before." Feng Wu said, "I just don't understand. Granny Zhao is such an expert, but you won't let her make the slippers for you." The crown prince glared at Feng Wu. "Her hands don't look nice." Feng Wu said, "Do you pick the eggs you eat by how pretty the hens look?" The crown prince almost choked. Feng Wu was gleeful when she saw the crown prince flush, but she couldn't show it, or he would get angry again. She focused on the fluffy slippers. She made a pair that matched the robe with dangling rabbit ears. The ears would sway as he walked, which would be cute. The crown prince didn't know what to say. Feng Wu showed him the slippers with both hands. "Your Royal Highness, shall I put them on for you?" The crown prince stared at her. Just then. Chapter 2944, Big Bad Wolf. Just then, footsteps came from outside. "Sister. Mother. Chowga. Qiuling. Granny Zhao. Uncle Qiu." They heard the excited voice of a teenager. Feng Wu was thrilled. That was Feng Xiaoqi. It had been a long time since she last saw him. He was back. He was alive. Feng Wu tossed the slippers to the side and rushed off. The next second, she and Feng Xiaoqi were hugging each other in the courtyard. Xiaoqi was only a year younger than Feng Wu. They grew up together. They went through the best and worst times together and had never been separated. This was the first time that they had been apart for so long, and Feng Wu had missed him. In her previous life, she had been a secret agent with little emotion, but this time around, she felt much softer inside because she needed to protect her family. They were what motivated her to get better. "I thought you were never coming back." The boy had grown much taller, like a young tree. She squeezed his smooth cheeks. It had only been 6 months, and he had changed so much. That hurts." Feng Xiaoqi jumped around. It took Feng Wu a while to calm down and test Xiaoqi's capability. "You're a level 7 spiritual lord now." Feng Wu was astonished. He had improved so much in those 6 months. Feng Xiaoqi said, "Master says it's all thanks to the foundation you built for me. Once I started cultivating, I improved so fast. I won't even need to take the exam to enter Imperial College. I can join the War Academy right away." Feng Wu asked, "Where's Grand Secretary Feng?" Feng Xiaoqi said, "We wouldn't have come back so soon, but Master detected some unusual activity in the Dongsang Kingdom, so he went to see His Majesty and sent me home first." Unusual activity in the Dongsang Kingdom. Feng Wu had a bad feeling. With northern Feng General guarding Peace Grassland, however, everything should be all right. She soon put it aside and led Feng Xiaoqi inside. I have a gift for you. Open your mouth. Feng Xiaoqi obediently opened his mouth. What is it? It tastes funny. Feng Xiaoqi didn't dare say it smelled like a toilet. Feng Wu said, it's good stuff. There's a bottle of it and it's all for you. Drink it again when you reach level 9. You'll then rise to the spiritual king stage without getting stuck. Really? Feng Xiaoqi was surprised. Master told me about the spirit wine that our school used to have. Feng Wu said, that's right. This is the spirit wine. Feng Xiaoqi's eyes widened. He had such an amazing sister. Sister, you're so nice to me. I'll keep you safe. When I become a super capable cultivator, I'll protect you from the crown prince. He's a big bad wolf. Shoo. Qiuling, Granny Zhao, and Uncle Qiu shushed him. Feng Xiaoqi was bewildered. The big bad wolf? A certain person smirked in the room. Chapter 2945. Sudden Guilt. Shoo. Everybody gave Feng Xiaoqi warning glances, but he was still perplexed. Feng Wu said, that big bad wolf is in my room. Feng Xiaoqi wouldn't believe it. Don't scare me like that. You're such an awful sister. Feng Wu said earnestly, kiddo, I'm telling the truth. Feng Xiaoqi laughed as he walked toward Feng Wu's room. There must be a present in your room. It's a pleasant surprise, isn't it? She was the best sister in the world. Feng Xiaoqi turned the door handle. The door opened. Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes and smiled at Feng Xiaoqi. Feng Xiaoqi and Jun Linyuan's eyes met. Gosh! Feng Xiaoqi was horrified. He ran out of the house as soon as he could. Holy crap! He wiped off the sweat on his forehead. Feng Wu walked up to him, and Feng Xiaoqi shook her by the shoulders. Why is that fiend in the house? Why is he in your room? Has he gotten to you? They were on the open street now, but Feng Xiaoqi was too shocked to choose his words carefully. When he realized what had happened, he grabbed Feng Wu's arm. Let's go to my master's house. We can talk there. They jumped over the wall into Grand Secretary Feng's house. Feng Xiaoqi was scared of Jun Linyuan because he felt the fiend could do anything. He dragged Feng Wu to the corner furthest from the Feng manor before whispering, Sis, what's going on? Feng Wu said, it's a long story. She would have to start with her old grudge against Zhuo Qingluan. Feng Xiaoqi said, I'm worried about death here, so make it shorter. What's your relationship with him? Relationship? No matter how far away that corner was, the crown prince could still hear them if he wanted to. Feng Wu said, well, I think we're friends. Feng Xiaoqi said, do you let a friend sleep in your bed? Feng Wu wanted to explain, but Feng Xiaoqi cut her off. I remember when we were little, I came back from outside and sat on your bed without changing my clothes. You kicked me off, telling me not to touch your bed before changing my clothes. Feng Wu said, he changed his clothes. Feng Xiaoqi said bitterly, that's your bed. I can't even sit on it, but he's lying there. Feng Wu suddenly felt a little guilty. Feng Xiaoqi went on. You made that robe for me yourself. Why is he wearing it? Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Feng Xiaoqi asked, are you in love with him? Feng Wu said, no. Feng Xiaoqi looked her up and down. Are you sure? Feng Wu said, yes. Feng Xiaoqi mumbled, I don't think I believe you. Chapter 2946. Not Afraid. Feng Wu didn't believe it herself. In Feng Wu's room, the fiend rested his chin on his hand, lost in thought. He kept replaying what Feng Xiaoqi said in his head. That's your bed. I can't even sit on it, but that fiend is lying there. The crown prince had been jealous of Feng Xiaoqi's return at first, but he was now smiling. When Feng Wu was involved, he turned into a foolish teenager. He turned back into a wise and sensible man again when dealing with other people. He wondered what he should do with his future brother-in-law. That boy had just called him a big bad wolf. In that case, Jun Linyuan would let the boy willingly bring his sister to him. Once he formed that plan, his thoughts were much clearer. Feng Xiaoqi and Feng Wu returned shortly after that. They had no idea what the clever crown prince was going to do. Feng Xiaoqi was almost too scared to enter the room. He only calmed down a little when Feng Wu promised him repeatedly that the crown prince was quite harmless at the moment. After dinner, the crown prince was reading a book while Feng Wu worked on some herbs. She needed to make some medicine for Jun Linyuan. She had been treating him with the green light, but it only had a minimal effect. Therefore, she decided to make a semi-divine pill. She had been stuck at the supreme level for a while. If she could succeed, the crown prince could be healed a lot faster. The pill required a lot of precious ingredients, but the crown prince's residence was at her beck and call, so she found everything she needed without difficulty. Jun Linyuan put down the book and asked in a seemingly casual tone, "Is your brother back?" Feng Wu said, "Yes. Xiaoqi is amazing. I forbade him from cultivating until he achieved the ultimate spiritual body. After that, he's been making fast progress. He's already a level 7 spiritual lord." She added, "Xiaoqi is the most handsome boy in my neighborhood." The crown prince suddenly wasn't in the mood to chat anymore. He said, "Go back to your pill." Feng Wu said, "Are you sure you'll be all right? I won't be out for 2 days." The crown prince nodded. Once Feng Wu entered the refinement room, the crown prince glanced at Feng Xiaoqi, who was outside the window and stealing peeks at Jun Linyuan from a few steps away. "Come over here." Jun Linyuan's indifferent tone might sound casual, but no one could challenge the authority it carried. Feng Xiaoqi was already scared of the crown prince, and the last thing he wanted was to go anywhere near him. He turned to run, but it felt like he was stopped by an invisible rope, and he couldn't move even a finger. Feng Xiaoqi wanted to cry. His sister lied. The fiend was anything but harmless. He had no choice but to enter the room. He didn't know what the fiend would do to him. "My sister will take revenge for me," he screamed inwardly. Xiaoqi thought the crown prince would eat him alive, but what he received was a test. The crown prince wanted to test his progress. Xiaoqi wanted to rest his hands on his waist and laugh. He had followed Grand Secretary Fong for the past 6 months and had learned many things from the old man, not to mention the rapid progress he had made in his cultivation. He wasn't afraid of the test at all. Chapter 2947, Pride, the Biggest Enemy. However, Xiaoqi was dumbfounded when he heard the first question. It felt like falling into a bottomless pit. Whenever he looked back on this day, Xiaoqi would always feel like he had been tested by a god. How could such a man exist in this world? That man could comprehend everything almost instantly and could bring the understanding to the next level. With a few casual comments, Xiaoqi could understand so many things he couldn't figure out before. Jun Linyuan only pointed out the shortcomings in his swordplay. The next time Xiaoqi used his sword, it felt like he was being reintroduced to it. A casual dot Jun Linyuan drew on paper could contain so much secret knowledge. When Xiaoqi comprehended it, he rose to the next level. Feng Xiaoqi was amazed. His eyes sparkled. Was this the world of geniuses? He admired Jun Linyuan for his intelligence, his knowledge, and his skills. His everything. Feng Xiaoqi used to admire Grand Secretary Fong for his wisdom and prudence, but all that paled in comparison with Jun Linyuan. At first, Xiaoqi thought he would never give in. He searched for books all over the city, determined to find something that Jun Linyuan didn't understand. However, after he asked all his friends and collected all the books he could find, he realized Jun Linyuan could explain anything on any random page he picked. His explanation was even more comprehensive than what was written in the books. Xiaoqi almost felt it wouldn't be a bad idea to have such a brother-in-law. Brother-in-law. Stop it. Xiaoqi smacked his own head. That man was just a little more clever and capable than other people. I won't give in. The crown prince quickly finished a dozen abstract paintings. Some contained a word, and some only had a single drop of ink on them. It was as if he drew them on a whim. Xiaoqi held the scrolls as if they were the most precious things in the world. They were indeed precious. Even Grand Secretary Fong asked him for one, not to mention other officials. Feng Xiaoqi dried the paintings under the grape trellis. He then studied the first painting and started cultivating. Feng Wu came out with the pill. It was only semi-successful. Semi-divine pills weren't that easy to make. Feng Wu rubbed her temples, put the pill in a box, and came out of the room. She was surprised to see Feng Xiaoqi cultivating under the grape trellis. It had only been 2 days, but he felt different. The impulsive and arrogant feelings brought by his rapid progress were gone. He was working very hard now. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She also knew that the rate of progress wasn't the most important thing for a genius. What was important was to stay humble and modest. Arrogance was a genius's only enemy. Because of his achievements, Xiaoqi had a sense of superiority. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.